It says liver.
Liver than heck. Hey, you ever think of like medical breakthroughs that like we gave up on too quickly? You know,
Do I think
like
about them?
yeah, like maybe we had a medical thing that now we think is outdated, but it turns out it wasn't. We just gave up on it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely thought of some of those.
So I'm thinking of the one I'm thinking of is the lobotomy. See, I feel like we were really onto something there, the lobotomy. We were just employing it wrong. And the reason I think that is because we didn't have the tools at the time to actually know who needed a lobotomy. All we would do is be like, hey, doctor, my wife's unruly. She burnt the fucking cookies. When I get home, she don't bring me no beer. And sometimes she's kind of a bitch. And the doctor's like, hey, you should fuck up her brain. Like, hey, thanks for turning my wife into a retard, doctor. She's a lot easier to deal with. So that's what we did. But I think if we had just held on to the lobotomy, just held on to it for just a little bit longer until the advent of anonymous internet threads, I think we would have then found the perfect application for the lobotomy, because then we would have found foot fetishists. Like his
And you would put them in there?
yeah. Because you think about it, like back in the day, if you were like into a foot fetish, or if you were like one of those weirdos that likes, like, I don't know, shitting on people's chest during sex, you can't just go out and look for people. Like, it's not like you're gonna post a flyer with your address, like, hey, anybody who wants to come talk about shitting on chests. It's just kind of my thing. You can't do that. But if you're fully anonymous, nobody can come to your house and find you. There's no social cost. It's just on Reddit. You can just throw it out there, and then you're going to find a bunch of other freaks like you. And if we had held out of the lobotomy, we could have been using it on those people for like the last, whatever, 10, 20 years of internet debauchery. So we fucked up on that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because that was just brought up on the all-female episode of RFM on Saturday. Did you
Are you
watch?
going to? Okay, I know what's about to happen. What's about to happen is you're going to do this thing that's going to piss me off, because you're going to be like, actually, the lobotomies were a lot more complicated than you think.
Me?
And it wasn't. And like, I actually dug into this, and I'm like, fuck. It's like the time I had to start defending the Breonna Taylor thing. I was so stoked when I wasn't stoked when the Breonna Taylor thing happened, but I was stoked that they're like, see, I'm not just biased for the cops. I think that thing was terrible. And then this shit comes out about it, and you're like, ah, fuck. Now I got to defend the cops here too. And
You're
you're about to
afraid.
do that. You're about to do that to me with lobotomies, you jackass.
You're afraid that through Brittany Hartley, I'm going to make you feel bad for supporting uh, lobotomies.
No, I feel like you're going to tell me about the history of lobotomies, and I'm going to go learn that actually they were lobotomizing women that were just like trying to microwave their children or something. And so it's a lot more justifiable than we thought. And now I'm going to have to go every time somebody brings it up. I'm going to have to be like, actually, it's a lot more nuanced than you think.
Yeah, no, I don't have any extra nuance on lobotomies, unfortunately. All I know is that they talked about it on. Did you see the whole episode? I mean, here it is.
No, I got pretty tired of it.
I got tired of it. I had to take it in multiple different takes. I mean, it took me like 10 different tries, which I also wanted to do with the Sam Harris Jordan Peterson episode that just dropped, and I already listened to the whole thing, and that was rough.
I didn't realize there was one.
Steve said it right. That all-female show was a bore. I watched some and suffered. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could guess what it was. They were talking about the Light and Truth letter, and I just have like one clip from it, although I probably could have pulled like 30 of them. But let's see here. We got Ruby, Risto, and Steve here already. And Starbase Collab is already making noise. Lobotomies. Yeah, no, I think that was kind of a wild thing, and it was all the science at the time, right? So.
Oh yeah, that was the only other time I brought up the lobotomies is when I wanted to do my Bill Burr bit from the 1920s. Oh, suddenly Angelica from down the fucking street is a doctor, and she says we should lobotomize people. Oh yeah, where'd you get your degree from?
Yeah, but that's used as a thing to say stuff is always unfair to women or whatever. But then the other side can use it to say, well, see, the science was poop sometimes in the past. Sometimes science lies.
But that's the beauty of science, is that when it sees that it's wrong, it just immediately goes, "Oh, I unbiasedly am wrong, and I will turn course." And nobody tries to stop it. And luckily, there's no. It's that never happens through pushback of non-experts. It's only the experts.
Yeah. See, this was episode, what was it, 6? I thought there was even more different women. You want to hear something scary and trippy?
What?
Middle of the night last night, this started playing out of nowhere at full
Oh,
volume, and I was
that's terrifying.
I
Anything
was
else?
a floor away asleep, and I woke up to it. And at first, I thought there was some women fighting in my basement, and then after a while, like it took me a minute, and I thought it was a dream. I didn't know what was going on, and it was this. It just started playing out of nowhere in the middle of the night at full volume.
You know what
And
I want to know is, Julie girl, who does your face work? Tell me. Oh my god, I can barely even tell that you've. Yeah, okay, I can tell.
comes as a 2-for-1 with lobotomies. Um, she still rolls with her. I guess you still roll with your maiden name after you get divorced, right? Nowadays, people were showing that she was like popping up on like Hinge and all that sorts of stuff for people to date them on like the Mormon sites, the lobsters and all that sorts of stuff, because she just barely got separated and divorced. A glow up, moving on up.
A glow up with a lot of Botox.
I think it's kind of interesting because this that Summer Rain person right there, she says she's still active and teaches Relief Society, but she is the daughter of what's his name? He's a Congress guy in Utah.
Oh Lord, her parents spelled her name like that.
I don't know if that's her actual name, but Utah Congressman. Which one is it? Why I forget his name. It's Burgess Owens.
His name was Alex Padilla.
It's Burgess Owens, and Burgess Owens is like an evil bad person to that part of the world. Look who's popped in. I didn't know that Flip was going to be popping in at all. Or is that just like a butt dial Flip?
Yeah, Flip doesn't have her camera on.
It looks like it's not gonna work. I can't get it.
You pulled a fast one on us. You were going to do a cult on us.
Except for Flip would never write in his name is.
That's
Flip.
true. We should have figured that out. That would have been a tell, and we picked up on the tell.
You didn't know it was Marty?
Nope, right at first. No, I didn't. I thought it was
She
Flip.
said, she said, I'm going to jump in and I'll name myself Flip.
Oh, I didn't even see that. You pulled a fast one right in front of my face. Here I am saying I'm good at poker. I lie. But that was a poker move. That was a bluff.
I'm going to try to get my camera working. Just continue on.
Huzzah. Did you watch this episode, Marty? On your channel over there?
So the only thing that I've kept up on is the stuff that I read in our chat.
Really?
So, yeah. There's very little that I have time to watch.
You're just out of it all, huh? You don't care anymore. You don't care about the Exmormon plight. Yeah. Are you doing any new episodes anymore? You're still on the channel over there, right?
Well, so Bill is pretty cool. I sent him a text the other day and I was like, hey, has it been too long? I'm like, am I out? I can't remember how I worded it. And he's like, no, if you can take as long as a break as you need. But he basically said I could post again if I wanted to. So
that's pretty chill. You probably would have been chill if you posted Maven stuff too anyway, right?
Oh, yeah. It was mostly I didn't want it on. I didn't feel like it. I didn't like it on my stuff. Like, I don't know.
You said like 4 things and it was just like clarifying stuff.
And that's because I clipped all my opinions out. I don't know if you watched the original one.
I did. It's just been like a year or so.
Yeah.
I didn't see the original one. Was there a lot of opinions?
Yeah. Like I pushed back on her quite a bit on some of the stuff.
And you were only supposed to be the moderator?
And I also stated, like, she asked what my opinion was. She kind of pulled me in. And I was like, reluctantly, I answered. But then when I edited, I was like, this is how it was supposed to be. So that's how I.
Well, I know she announced what it was for you several different times in several different places, so that you were still stuck in your Mormon ways.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I feel like my position was actually pretty close to somewhere in the middle between them. So it's interesting that she just, because I wasn't all the way on her side, I was wrong. So
Yeah, I don't think she has a middle, which is why it'd be interesting to hear what that Carrie Sweet person's actual opinion is, because I don't think it's as hardline as Maven's is, and Bill Reel's as close as it gets without being hardline about it, and just said hold off a bit and with others, and Bill still wasn't good enough for her, but Carrie Sweet is. But I guess I'm just assuming Carrie Sweet's. I mean, well, she says she has her own opinions, but
Maven is the perfect anecdote for that graph that came out showing diversity in thought between right-leaning and left-leaning people.
Yeah, I got that. I'll pull it up here. Yeah, that just came out. I don't know. I haven't seen the article or the study that goes with it, but seems pretty true to me.
Refresh. It will turn my camera on because I have.
You might have to go out and back in or something.
Oh,
there you are.
Push stop camera. That's funny.
Were you trying to do an avatar of Flip or something?
No, I couldn't find the button. I guess it's been a while since I've been on StreamYard.
There it is. Some article mapped out the diversity of opinions between supposedly the sides, and claims there's more diversity of thought on the right. And then Benjamin Boyce is also saying, which is a little bit of what I was saying the other day, is that this is why Burn Capital saying the woke right is a subwit notion, or just it's hard to put all those different opinions under one bad thing, which Sam Harris was trying to do today on the Jordan Peterson 2 hours. That, man, if you compare that to their original meetings, did you guys? It just barely came out.
I didn't even know that they were doing it.
It's on my watch later list.
I think I could sum up the whole thing to Sam Harris thinks opinions are bad and everybody has misinformation but Sam Harris.
Oh. Yeah. Well, we should listen to him more often, I guess.
Hour and 40 minutes to get there to that. Risa says the woke right does not like diversity of opinion on the right. Yeah, if you get to the true woke right. But that's the problem is that too many people are getting lumped into that term. And I think there are those types out there, but the ones being lumped into, I mean, he mentioned like Candace Owens, or I don't know, he said that he brought up Tucker Carlson and that Martyr Maid dude, although then he lied about what that Martyr Maid guy said. Sam Harris said the Martyr Maid guy said that Hitler justified the killings of the Jews because he's backed into a corner and they just wanted to euthanize him or something like that. And maybe he said that somewhere else or something, but he didn't say that on Tucker Carlson, and Sam Harris claimed that he did.
You can say pretty much anything you want about him, and it's fine.
Yeah, you're just allowed to pop it out. The only thing he said that got them like lit up was that he said that Churchill was maybe a bigger bad guy than everybody assumes, and he liked to use the hyperbolic statement of he is the true villain. But the only reason he says that is he thinks he was the one who pushed and exacerbated it going into war, and there can be some argument for that. There's other real historians who've argued as much, but
that's been debunked.
It's been debunked.
I liked what Jared said about this because just that because the left is kind of running everything right now. That's why it looks like that. Maybe.
Well, yeah. So my like initial knee jerk to this was that it's at least partially a function of whoever is losing the culture war, because the left wing was winning the culture war so hard for so long that they kind of just felt invincible and they could gatekeep their just terribly shitty opinions and just kick anybody out. They kicked out Brett Weinstein. People who were on their side. Anyway, and then the right, meanwhile, they'll accept RFK. There's no way they would have accepted him, back when I was growing up. But
Tulsi Gabbard.
But I really think there's only a certain amount of degrees to that, because I also mentioned that anytime I read like a Dostoevsky book, like the arguments are all the same, like right down to shit like the real reason for crime is poverty. Really, they can't help it. What we need to do is have social programs.
Yeah, it basically boils down to that, really, right?
Yeah, so no, in the Dostoevsky books, and again, you'd have to trust him to be steel manning the socialist position. I do trust him to do that because he steel mans the atheist position very, very well. Like they sound exactly the same as now. Like all of the young asshole radicals, their justifications are the exact same now as it was then. And I guess the more radical, maybe that's the thing, is radical is what you have to be to dislike viewpoint diversity.
Yeah, and it's true. I'm going to pull up a clip in a little bit. I don't know if I shared it. I did share it in there of Roger Scruton talking about what, maybe I just do it now, talking about what he calls conservatism. And I guess it all goes in line with the riot stuff, which we guys talk about. Look what's dropping right now. Christopher just shared this with us.
Oh, more.
Anti-ICE protests march through downtown Salt Lake City. Lago Salado, as we say around here. We're Mexico, man. This is part of Mexico, and I'm a ciudadano of Mexico. That's why my name is that. I wonder if that'll get violent, or who knows. But the riots. What do you think about the riots, Marty?
Well, that definitely will not get violent unless police show up. They incite violence. So
we were perfectly fine over here until Trump started coming for the illegal immigrants.
Now yeah. I've been watching it live. I don't like reading articles about it because I just feel like, I don't know.
They're lying.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't trust anybody.
Well, they also lie to you. They also lie to you while you watch it.
Yeah.
Me and Flip were commenting on, like, we're both watching the ABC live coverage of it, and it's just listening to these reporters fall all over themselves trying to explain how this is peaceful while they're panning over. They can't just pan over the city. They got to get the most interesting footage. So they're like panning over like a burning car. 2 burning cop cars while people are chucking scooters on it. Like some jackass is doing reverse donuts in a busy intersection. Like, pretty peaceful really, it's pretty peaceful. But there's just a bunch of people standing around and having fun and watching cars burn until the Fire Nation came.
Is there a more meaningless 2 words put together than mostly peaceful? Like, could that say less about anything?
That describes Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was mostly peaceful. Everybody talks about when Jeffrey Dahmer severed dudes' heads and like raped their skulls, right? But nobody talks about the 98% of his life where he wasn't cutting dudes' heads off.
Well, was January 6th mostly peaceful?
Yeah. I mean, according to...
Yeah, but the part you worry about is the shitty part.
You be quiet. We're talking about the mostly peaceful part. And that's the part that matters. Like O.J. Simpson, on the day that he killed, not even his whole life, on the day that he killed, allegedly, his ex-wife, was mostly peaceful that whole day. Yeah. You know, it's like 24 hours. That probably took 15 minutes. That's a mostly peaceful murder. Ruby mentions the CRS has been running things since the 60s. I see that you've been following Academic Agent and Aaron McIntyre, who have exposed something that I knew was there. It's something that exists under the Civil Rights Act, under Title 10. It's called like the Civil Rights Service or something like that. And there's this clandestine, totally existent, said it's on paper, it's in the bill, group of people who go around and enforce civil rights stuff. Like some of those, they talk about some of those situations, like when the guy had his son was stabbed by that Carmelo Anthony thing, that they say that there's suddenly like somebody like in the Willy Wonka movie, you know how like every time a kid got like a little golden ticket in the Willy Wonka movie, there was like some guy in a black coat there, right, to speak into his ears and say, this is what the message is going to be, this is what you're going to say, and this is what you're going to do. And there really is like a real group. A book was just released by somebody from the group. You know how the left like always. This is one of the things that used to drive me so crazy in the years of people denying that there's such thing as postmodern neo-Marxism, and you go, did you read their own stuff? They say that they are that. Like, what are you talking about? And it's the same as this. Somebody who was part of that group released a book. Said it came out in 2020. Says Ruby, you've got the book. What's the name of the book? Yeah, and they go around. They enforce, like they threaten TV stations. They threaten everybody with all sorts of different types of messaging. That all the messaging has to be what we've generally known. That it's got to say that these protests are mostly peaceful and the counter protests are mostly violent and all that sort of stuff. And it's a real agency that exists inside or as part of. Look, here's the real one. Did you know that you've been appropriated, Flip?
Hey, are there any
I
protests?
think I'm moving away from the Wi-Fi. You guys hear
I'm
me?
better because I'm a woman, but I'm not as good because I'm white. So
Yeah, I missed that because I moved too far away from the Wi-Fi. But
That she's
where I
better
am.
because she's a woman, but she's not as good because she's white. Flip is white past.
Where is that in Vegas? You're in Vegas?
No, I'm in Fairview. I'm in Sanpete County
Oh.
at my aunt and uncle's joint.
I was gonna say I never saw that much grass in Vegas my whole time.
No, we are in a very different place. Way nicer. But we did have a blast in Vegas.
Oh, it's done? You're done with Vegas?
No, he only did one night because, I mean, one night's the limit for me.
No, I thought you were gonna like do
but it
some
was
protesting down there. You could
your
have had fun
son
in
who's
cars.
your son who's a foreigner had his first.
No, but we took him to play poker and I lost a lot and he won $33. So he was absolutely delighted. He had his first live poker experience and did just fine.
Has he ever been to Rexburg, Idaho?
Yeah, that's not on the list.
Where did you play?
Resorts World.
What?
It's called Resorts World. It's behind Circus Circus. It's kind of new. We stayed in a great hotel though. Oh yeah, you got to show the polyamory signs that were all over our hotel.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just checking in to say that I checked in. But I'm here with this extremely Mormon situation with multiple generations and neighbors and all kinds of people. We ate the neighbor's cow, actually, which is pretty awesome.
Did you get a kill? Did you get to choose a cow to kill like Mr. Burns?
No. That thing's like, for Marty, that's old news though. She killed a cow and ate it once a week where she
at
lived.
one point, I wanted to retire in Sanpete County and
It's outrageously gorgeous here. Oh,
yeah.
there it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's group sex bathrooms only.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the.
Like, what is that saying?
That's the elevator, but like all of the signs.
Oh,
I thought it was
we're two guys and a girl, and I'm like, what is that about? Like,
it's called a devil threesome.
Oh, Brian Wilson died. Oh,
yeah, that's extremely sadness.
Right along with California itself.
Yep. He was holding it up on his feeble shoulders.
I just did want to check in, say that I'm alive, and show off this unbelievable Fairview situation. But I guess you guys got Marty, so you don't need me.
Somebody said they just saw you this afternoon.
Yeah, no, we had lunch. We had lunch with Troy and Shanna in Mesquite.
Cool.
Every time I go to Mesquite or Vegas or any of these places in the summer, why would anybody get there and be like, okay, let's live here? It's so outrageous. It's ridiculous.
Troy lives
I'd
there.
take it for the weather.
Asking why he lives there.
Yeah, no. Troy,
I'd take it for the weather for sure.
Explain yourself, Troy. Why do you live in that shithole?
I mean, well, because this is only June. It wasn't super bad in Vegas. It was over 100. But like, I was there, I don't know, 20 years ago, and the most surreal thing I ever experienced was walking out on the strip at 12:30 a.m. and it was 106 degrees.
Oh yeah, I used to hang out there at night in like shorts and a tank top, and I loved that. I love nighttime hot.
Oh yeah, no, like it's kind of interesting as an experience, but the idea of living there to me is just, I mean, Salt Lake City is too much for me.
Troy, legal weed.
Oh yeah.
I said I was going to talk about it, and it might be best to talk about it now because we took your son to Red Iguana, the famous Mexican restaurant here in Salt Lake. What was that European's thoughts on, because we know what Sargon thinks of Mexican food, and just this week Matt Walsh made the same rant about Mexican food, and
That's not like that's the most stereotypically white conservative thing you can do is think that Mexican food is bad.
He
No, but
says
my
he
kid loved it. He like 'cause that's like he always said his favorite food in England was a thing they call Mexican. That is not. It's like,
so here's this.
but
Listen
he
to
really
this.
liked it.
This is basically Matt Walsh's take. I think this is AI, but we'll see.
Respectfully, who gives a shit about Mexican food? Sure, it tastes good, but every dish is the exact same thing. Everything is a taco, but they call it different things. It's bullshit. If I served a burger to you upside down, it's still a burger. Okay, it doesn't become a salad. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Someone else has had to have picked up on this as well, right?
That's pretty accurate. Although I actually heard that from a Mexican. He kind of pointed out, like, look, it's all corn, rice, and beans. It's just assembled in different ways.
See, I made
Because
that joke. I made that joke in
I
high
was at-
school about Taco Bell because I was like, yeah, Taco Bell's like my favorite shitty fast food, but it's really just like 4 different things shaped differently. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's just
I got-
Mexican food.
I was excited to tell the guy, like, oh, I tried huarache. And, like, for me, I was like, hey, it's something new. But he's just like, oh, yeah, it's just another form of corn. Like, it's just corn in different shapes with rice and beans.
Troy says he lives there for the legal weed. And Charles says he loves the night hot in Vegas. I love it too myself. And anyway, as the resident Mexican here, because I am from Utah, and I served in Mexico City, everybody's wrong about that. There's way more food than it is the Americanized version. Like we like the tortilla stuff up here, and we just eat all those different versions of the tortilla and stuff. But I mean, there'd be tortillas on the table in Mexico, but all the food was outrageously different. Not just to mention that you never came across the same sauce twice. Like everybody had their own version of a mole, and it was good, and that sort of stuff. But you have like albóndigas or the chiles rellenos or pinga. I guess it's just
I mean,
different
I
sort
didn't
of
know what it
stuff.
was at the time,
Torta,
but the first time I had pozole was like a religious
pozole.
experience.
That's what
Anyway.
hominy. How do you say that in English? Hominy or something like that.
Hominy, yeah. It's hominy. All right,
Choice
but I'm
of
going to
lots
bail and do family stuff. But you
Gay.
guys rip on the church for me.
Enjoy your
Say
cow.
something about feminism. All right, see you guys.
The church is feminist, and it should go down for its feminism and churchiness. There's so Walsh, after ranting about Mexico stuff, because Mexico's been the topic all week, he went into a whole half hour on that, and of course he got a bunch of people pushing back on him. He said he didn't say he didn't like it, but it's all just the same, just that same old take. Had a big, nice long one on that, but I mean I disagree with it. There's a ton of different Mexican
Here's the
food.
thing. The one thing, and this is me being trashy. I understand. I don't have a sophisticated palate. The thing I did agree with was I like Tex-Mex better. I just do.
I don't. No,
It's
no,
just-
no, 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 no. No
it's-
cheese. No.
Yes, cheese. Yes, sour cream. God, I don't want beans without sour cream and cheese. That's fucking awesome.
Risa says a dude in Idaho. Charles says, and if you don't like menudo, it's because you haven't tried my menudo. Yep. I learned in Mexico really quickly to not tell them what you didn't like, because that's what they would be feeding you next. And because you just haven't tried their nopales or whatever it is. And so I never pulled like a full switcheroo on them and told them something that I did like was what I didn't like to try to see if they do it. But yeah, they constantly do it. Tacos árabes are rad. Yeah, all the different tacos. And Matt Walsh was trying to say that the tacos are worse in Mexico. No.
It would be better if they had sour cream on them.
No. but still, like a tacos al pastor from like a real shop on the street in Mexico City, you can't beat it. You just can't beat it. And one of the reasons is because he complains that they don't have like the health codes, but those health codes are what helps in the sense of you can get those tortillas that are only good for a half hour. Like there's no saving them. There's no saving them for tomorrow. They're not good in 2 hours. You got to eat them now because they just came right off of a thing that was just right up the street. and every single street has like a tortilla maker on it, and getting just that fresh, immediate corn tortilla, that's everything. And you just can't even get that in the US because everything's got preservatives in it.
I like, yeah. Were you allowed to buy the street food on your mission?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we were not supposed to, but I mean, I still did all the time.
Yeah, we did all the time
a
too. I
rule.
got Revenge of Montezuma one time. I have a picture of it somewhere, like right after, well, with me like sleeping on the toilet, like barfing all night. And only happened one time, and it didn't happen from any. It happened from tortas, which is just bread. And I mean, I guess I don't know that was what did it.
Oh,
but I
oh,
ate
did I
another
t-
one.
Wait a
Okay,
minute.
so
What
torta-
else
that's
is
not-
torta?
That's not something you find. So that is at a hole in the wall, like really
Yeah.
small, like grocery store / restaurant food truck thing in Logan. It's really good. It's called Los Primos. But they have these gorditas. I'd never heard of those before, but I had one of those there. It was really good. Like it's a different way to have corn.
Yeah.
And it's like a
Or the
sandwich.
elotes, the way have you ever had like a big decked out elote, which is just like the corn on a stick where they put all the cream and the cheese? That's where they do use the cream and the cheese, even in Mexico. Jared, have you ever had one of those?
Ah.
Like they just get like this giant stick of corn and just cake it with
Oh yeah,
sour cream and
I fucking love
cheese and
Mexican street corn. That stuff's great. Hey, do
So-
you know? Are you aware of the slang, the torta, the slang word instead of just?
used like for butt and stuff like that. Like
Well,
tortas
okay.
are-
So is torta? Is that a sandwich?
Yeah, well, it's basically the bread, and it's most of the times in a sandwich. But when I had it, it was just like dunked in this red sauce that they do all the time, and
Mhm.
sometimes they kind of fry it. Like I don't know how you call their frying. It's just in grease, and they cook it out over this huge circular pan or something like that.
Oh, we
And
have
that's what
this-
I yacked off of.
We have this Mexican friend that we work with, and we're just chatting one day, talking about like cultural differences and stuff. And somebody asked him, like, "Hey, how come in Mexican culture, so many like really fat women wear like halter tops and shit like that? Like they just hang their gut out, dressing slutty." And he's like, "Oh, we call those tortas." What? So now every time I see one, I laugh to myself. Torta.
When I Google it, it all looks Americanized, but so it is kind of just like a sandwich and like the bread. But hold on here, I
Yeah,
tried to say street torta, but that's not what they look like. But they are usually dunked in this like reddish stuff right here.
I think I saw one. Scroll down. Or at least one that, yeah, right there in the
Where?
middle on the leftish. It's like really flat.
Yeah, it's flat. It's very flat, and I'm not seeing the ones that
But right
like
there.
sort of like
yeah,
this.
Yeah, like that one.
That's what they look like.
That's what it
more.
looks like at this restaurant.
And that's what it looks like on the street more down there. And yeah, they're always cooking like big pans and things like this and sticking them on stuff like that. But
Well,
Do they use their feet?
so this restaurant's interesting. They actually cook their food in the food truck out back, and then they bring it back in at their sit down area where
That's
you
funny.
sit down and eat. And then on the other side of the stores, like it's Mexican store, so you've got all the Mexican beers and then all of the snacks and stuff.
these are like fancy restaurantized version. That's the closest of what the one that I have highlighted there. The closest to what you'll see like on the street, just out everywhere. And it was good. This is it. That's far more what you're getting every other block.
Really?
Yeah, just like, well, it'll be red dunked and stuff like that, and sometimes greasy on the outside, but it is more flat and just kind of big and dumping out like that.
Did I ever tell you about Brazilian cheeseburgers?
No.
So they just call them cheese. It's just the letter X, but it's just because it sounds the most like cheese. And you can order them, and I like them quite a bit. They'll dude on a motorcycle almost dies getting them to your apartment, and you get it, and it's massive, and it always has peas, corn, meat, obviously, usually bacon, sometimes chicken hearts, and then always just an ass ton of mayo. They fucking love mayo in Brazil, and it's like too much mayo, like it's gross almost. But I'm sitting there eating it, and it came with like one of those like baker little twirl things that you snip the tip off and like put the icing on the cake. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Except full of mayo. There's like a quarter cup of mayo and a bunch of them, like one for each person. I'm like, Jesus, how much mayo do they think we need? And I look over at the Brazilian guy. He's taking a big bite of this thing that already has a shitload of mayo on it, and then he squirts like a tablespoon of mayo on each bite that he takes. I was like, holy shit. They love potato salad, but they call it mayonnaise.
Yes, this sitting right here at this, like right before we were going in at the end of the day, you were always eating something good, and there was some sort of like sautéed jalapenos that went with it, and then the sauce. Oh, there's the elotes. Then the salsa was always amazing, and just pounds of it. You could just toss on as much of it as you wanted, and I've just never found the exact same experience in the U.S. Partially, I think maybe because of the health code stuff. But
I've never seen that in the U.S. My only reference to those stick corn on the cobs are that show
Nacho Libre.
Yeah, so the people selling that on the streets, they'd walk up and down the streets with their little canisters yelling for it, and you'd hear them say it in all sorts of different ways. They'd be like, elote, just all night long. You'd hear it just going on outside. That sort of thing.
There's almost always any like county fair with a large enough Mexican population. There's always some Mexican lady selling those corn things. They're great. I love them.
They always do tamales. Tamales, cinco le cuesta.
That's so funny.
Tamales.
He sounds just like Kevin. Kevin said that they would sell water in the street in Honduras. So it was like agua azul, blue water.
Yeah. Yeah, they could project really well. I remember this. Rick Bayless here. He has like a whole show on the Food Network, and he's actually really good at going all over Mexico and telling people how to cook the stuff. And I remember I showed this to my Mexican girlfriend at the time, and she felt he was very much appropriating the stuff. Like, he can't go around and say all the stuff that they're saying and doing. He just doesn't know. Like and there's some sort of sense of like, yeah, every single Mexican mother does have their own way of cooking a little bit. Yeah, this was everywhere on the streets, always, all the time. In Mexico City.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved stopping and eating a place like that. But some sort of torta like this is what made me yak. But I never yacked off of off of tacos. Yeah, just sitting down to something like this, you just get whole plates of stuff like that, and you just be like, oh, it's so good. And that's not just whatever Matt Walsh is eating, But
oh yeah, Matt Walsh has probably had like, I don't know, maybe a tamale.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he hasn't had the real deal stuff, and he'd be so crusty that even if he got it, he'd be like, me. Yeah, this is what I barfed off of, whatever that's what it looked like. And it was good, looked good.
And make that bread out of flaming hot Cheetos.
No, it's dunked in some sort of red sauce that's kind of like, here's the sauce. Right like that.
Nice.
It looks like the sauce that the Spanish rice is cooked in or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not spicy, but it's good. Anyway, I can't believe they always kind of go to that whenever they talk about that stuff. Although one of the long-running things of what people are saying on the right is they're sick and tired of being told that you should let all these immigrants in because the food's amazing. You'll have amazing taco stands and all that sort of stuff. And he was kind of going off of that concept of, we're tired of hearing that. We have enough food. We have the recipes type stuff. I do think it's kind of funny. I don't know if y'all remember long enough, but before I went my mission, I almost feel like the world got Mexicanized after I went to Mexico. I think I told you before, I went down there and saw like Shakira and Ricky Martin and all these people. I'm like, wow, they've got a really vibrant music scene down here. I should tell the Americans about this when I get back here. And I get back and I'm like, what is going on? Like that boom happened right when I was out there. And I came back and like, what? Mexico just came here. And then all of a sudden, every single Berto's restaurant was all of a sudden open. Like, I swear none of that existed 25 years ago, like, or hardly any of it, and then now it's all just Mexico everywhere. But then you have the Indian food shops and the flips Flip's such an adventurous eater. He's the one always kind of dragging us to this stuff. So he's taking us to like Ethiopian food. I don't know if you've ever tried that.
No, he's told us a million times anytime we go down there to go to his favorite Ethiopian joint.
They do this like pancake, and they put meat, kind of like you just saw it right there, like that, out on this pancake. That's kind of like a tortilla.
They do that in Brazil too.
Yeah, what's it called?
Yeah, they don't have tortillas. They call them like panquecas.
This is how they serve it. They serve it to you like this, and then you just kind of pull off pieces of the bread as if it were almost kind of like
in Brazil they'll make it. It's kind of like enchiladas basically, but it's like a really thin pancake. Put a bunch of meat in it, roll it up, do that several times. Put it in like a casserole dish, and then they always use a shit ton of peas and corn and mayonnaise.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the immigration all it brought us was all this, or I guess we've had a ton of slave labor too. But
I do remember listening to like a debate between Jared Taylor and Wilfred Riley, and I like Wilfred Riley. And it was supposed to be like, is diversity our strength? Jared Taylor was saying, no, it's not. It's bad for us. Wilfred Riley was saying, yes, we are. And like, most of his argument was food. And I was like, okay, hang on a second. You're right. This guy's saying that because of diversity,
they do it all the time.
We have this massive crime rate. And he's implying that if we were all just white, we wouldn't have all that. Like, it would reduce our crime by more than half. And you got to prove to me that that's not true. That's your best bet here. You're just saying, well, we had tacos. Okay, but like, if I could give up tacos for 50% of the murder that happens, I'd be sad, but I'd do it.
Troy says, I surmise that Porch Time has the most active chat to viewer ratio in all of YouTube. Yeah, that's probably true. The chat is as active as any of us, unless we get rolling on abortion and then we don't look back as often. Ruby says the same thing. Mexico followed us. Somebody else has to feel that same sense, like that went on a mission around the same time I did. But I guess I just was listening on Tim Pool as they were talking about all this stuff that everybody's basically saying, yeah, we're kind of looking at the last 20, 25 years when it just really shot off the handle, I guess, post NAFTA and all that. And then Trump was just saying today that he's got to be careful and not deport all the fruit pickers and all the hotel workers. And that has a lot of people on the conservative side upset. Like, no, it should just be all of them. Send them all back.
Well, that's not possible. So that's not going to happen.
So how did these riots start? Did you even know what the initial thing supposedly was?
An ice raid.
Where? It was, I've heard different things, like it was at like a Home Depot or something, or they just got like a couple people out and then they started protesting it. And
that's what all of the lefties are trying to say. I don't know. I listened to some people, like I think Tom Homan said they were trying to had like an investigation into this gang activity where there was drugs and all this shit, but then local authorities wouldn't cooperate with him. I haven't dug into it a whole lot, but what I do know is they were trying to deport illegal immigrants. And
from what I saw, at least the ones they pulled up, 4 or 5 of them were all pretty.
Oh yeah, there's some nasty ones.
But the community pushed back. Risto says he married diversity and he'd keep the tacos. And Troy says, I'm with you, Risto. Tacos beat out murder. Yeah, we just had to sacrifice a few little people for that, I guess. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
No, all I was saying is if all diversity brought us was food, that's just stupid. I don't think that's the case. Like, I'm sure there's good things about it too. It's just if you're going to debate a guy about it who's talking about crime and you're like, but enchiladas! Like, come on, you're better than this, Wilfred Riley.
They really do just go to that. They go to that very often. It's
how about like sports? We wouldn't do well in the Olympics. But I don't care. That doesn't matter very much.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with that stuff. Like, there's probably better arguments than you should make them. But
I know there's a way. I'm sure there's better arguments. I've never really tried to make them that much, but
Risa says enchiladas are awesome. White food is a
Yeah.
crime. How dare you say that,
Enchiladas.
Risa? There's good white food in the world.
Yeah,
course there's
Flip
good white
is
food.
eating a cow. Come on.
Flip is eating a cow. I mean, what's good? Mormon slop? Like Mormon slop should be. We should become.
Steak and potatoes.
We should do like a, what do they call it, the hijra or
Veggie.
whatever, and go and move into every other country in the world, a Mormon diaspora, and bring our
And we're
mushy potatoes.
we're gonna
to the world.
casserolize everything.
We're gonna bring cheese potatoes to, I don't know, where somewhere
What?
we want to go.
Honestly,
Canada.
one of my favorite dishes we ever had was my mom's enchilada casserole.
Yeah, we can white it up pretty good, even if they have like their. I bet. Can we white up Indian food? Is that? I mean, I guess you could take naan and like make a ham sandwich out of it.
You can make it into a casserole. That's what Mormons do. They don't make sandwiches; they make casseroles. Everything is a casserole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
so
a funny-
Troy's right. Funeral
funny-
potatoes are
Funeral
amazing.
potatoes, that's
I don't
right.
care what anyone says. I love those. I will make a whole batch for myself.
Yeah, I have a funny funeral potato story. So my sister-in-laws will not let my mom live this one down. She was making some, she didn't have any cornflakes or something crunchy on top. So
She used Frosted Flakes.
No.
That would be sweet.
Captain Crunch with berries.
Whoa, even better. So
I would eat that.
And the thing is, she didn't see anything wrong. Like all of us were kind of like snickering. And like she didn't.
You should have pictured that, and we should have it up here as a Mormon slop picture.
Oh,
for
that
sure.
happened a long time ago. Like it's still talked
It was
about. though.
before pictures were around to just like take a snap.
Right.
real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is when I was in high school, like when I just barely had new sister-in-laws. So
Well, now you got to make it. You got to make it. and
Wait, Troy asked,
see if you
was
can make it work.
Troy asked, was
No,
it for
it
an
was
actual
just-
funeral?
no,
Was
I
it-
think it was actually like a Thanksgiving
'Cause
dinner.
that would be
So
fucking
that's makes it
funny.
even worse. It's like Thanksgiving, you try to make everything all perfect and pretty, and my mom
No, it'd
like,
be way worse at a
out this
funeral.
this funeral potatoes.
So
Yeah,
I
sweet
am.
cereal.
Listen to this. I'm a totally Irish-ish dude, and I have nightshade sensitivities and don't eat potatoes because of it.
Oh,
and
that's
haven't since I was little.
that's
And
depressing. I love potatoes.
I like them too. Like I want to like eat through them, and yeah,
There's a
but-
thing where you can't have potatoes.
it's nightshade. Yeah, nightshade allergies, and technically, we're all allergic to nightshades. You just have to get enough of them in you. There's a natural pesticide in any nightshade, and if you get enough of it into you, you'd feel what I feel from a little bit of it. Yep, Risa says no eggplant, no potatoes. It's got to have like different levels of chemicals in it because red peppers will hit me worse than green peppers. So I kind of make sure red peppers aren't stuff, but I can do a bit of green peppers before. And I mean, it's not like an allergy that I'm getting some. And I have eaten potatoes when it, like if I saw the Captain Crunch potatoes, I would take the hit for it.
Oh hell
But
yeah!
I can also just take a little bit of Benadryl and feel drowsy and feel fine too. So it's not like it's like some getting epinephrine shot or something like that. It's just it doesn't feel good. So I generally avoid it. So potatoes are out for us all eventually. Yeah, everybody, if you get enough nightshade in you, you'll get gacky like a little bit. A lot of different things are nightshades. Yeah, funeral potatoes. I love them. Like my mouth loves them. My stomach doesn't. It's like every time I see them, like, oh, should I take the hit? I guess I can take a Benadryl, that sort of stuff. But
Yeah, Reese's full of shit. White people food is awesome. Of course, I'm not like I
What's-
said. I have a very simple palate.
hamburgers, white people food, right?
Yeah, hamburgers are awesome.
So
Hamburgers are almost as good as tacos.
You can put
So
anything between two pieces of bread.
I bitch about hamburgers a whole lot, and that's just because like, especially like if I travel around with like my band and stuff like that.
A good
They-
hamburger's only as
like-
good as its bun.
Have you ever tried this hamburger place? Oh my gosh, it's a hamburger place. I'm like, really? A hamburger place? A hamburger place is where we're going. We have all these. We brought in 20 million Mexicans, and you're taking me to a hamburger place. No, I like hamburgers. I don't like people telling me that they found the most best one ever because they're almost always just hamburgers to me.
Steak, man.
I'm with Reese though. Most
steak's like
hamburgers
the
are
best.
overrated.
Have you ever
Steak.
had a hamburger
Yes.
with donuts as the bun? Have
Oh,
you ever been to a
disgusting.
restaurant that
I
serves
like
that?
it. I
That
like
sounds
it.
so
That-
gross.
There was a I think it was called Crave in Colorado. I think they had more than one location too. But that was kind of a fun place to eat. They had crazy hamburgers.
I've made it myself with a Krispy Kreme before. Nightshade is a move in Pokemon? Maybe so. Had Sonic for lunch today. Frito wrap was decent. Wraps, I like wraps and stuff like filet mignon, beef brochet, so good. Like, how do you hate on white food? But
I mean, unless it's British white.
How much did you guys really come across the Mormon Jello?
Honestly, I heard about it on the Exmormons subreddit the first time.
I missed this. I saw Dragon Desert say the riot evolved super organically. Bricks mobilize themselves. This was not organic. I don't know if you guys have followed any of that.
Yeah, they have the build your own shrapnel bomb station over there. Like, everybody take your cardboard paper, fold it hamburger style, hot dog style, put some shards of glass in there for some good shrapnel. Wrap it around this Roman candle, and then you got to bump all of the black dust out of it until you see white, and then it's going to blow up nice. Hopefully you'll suffer a cop's carotid artery with that.
Yeah. Oh, somebody gave one of those memes. I guess here it is. Those my tax dollars and somehow my tax dollars too.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's so true. So if you follow Data Republican on Twitter, Data Republican's been just unloading how many different NGOs have funded money into this. And they've got like different videos of them driving into town and passing out shields and passing out signs and all this sorts of stuff. And then after a couple days, they realized the Mexican flag sort of thing was bad optics. And then they went around and started passing out American flags instead. But I think they didn't want to do it. They still just ended up burning the American flags. But it is true. And a lot of those NGOs do get USAID type money. They get money from our tax dollars funded into them to fund this stuff. And that's what we call mid-level violence. If anybody's heard of Sam Francis, which I guess we can get into that stuff a little bit. But the big thing that you hear, like a lot of different people, like Victor Davis Hanson saying, I think Greg Mattson even made the point, kind of the obvious point of, why are you holding the flag of the place you're being mad that you're getting sent back to, and parading that around like Viva Mexico? Then of course, like of course, a lot of those different guys try to make the argument, well, this always was Mexico and is Mexico. And so then there's been a bunch of different conservatives breaking down how much time it actually was Mexico. It was Mexico for like 25 years or something like that. And for hundreds of years before that, it was Spain, which was a colonized place. Well, I guess way before that, you could say it was indigenous territory. Should we stop and recognize that first, that we're on indigenous land?
Well, natives are Americans, so...
Oh, yeah. So that's always full circle.
Yeah. So we win.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you the origin of the word Idaho?
Oh, you did, but I've forgotten it now. Isn't it like a nonsense word?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a fake word.
Tell it again.
It was, what was it? A mining lobbyist named George M. Willing suggested the name Idaho to Congress, claiming it was a Native American word meaning gem of the mountains. However, after Congress initially approved the name Idaho for this territory, it was discovered that the word was not an actual native term, and he just made up the fucking word. That's so awesome.
That is kind of funny.
Well, we found out too. I think what was it, like somewhere in Yucatan or something like that?
You're named by a fucking troll.
We brought it up before on here, but Yucatan or that area down in Yucatan, one of those things, the name was "What I Don't Understand You." So it was like the people were asking the people, like, what's the name of this? Yucatan? Like, what? I don't understand you. What? I don't understand you. And that's what they said. This place is called What I Don't Understand You. That's what this place is called.
Sinatra's asking for the Twitter handle. It's Data Republican.
Data Republican, heavy detail on.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't even start to regurgitate it because there are so many NGOs in this, all called something like Peace for New World Without Frontiers, New Peace for something or other, and they're all funded by different billionaires. Soros is some of them. There's this other guy who lives in China who's been funding a bunch of it. I forget that guy's name. Heavy funding, this is astroturfed. astroturfed at the ass. But I think they're playing themselves because I do not think that people feel this is the same optics as the Summer of Love. I really don't. And I noticed some other people pointed out the Black Lives Matter. The black people are staying out of this one. Like they're like we're not with you guys. We don't. You take our jobs too. You took our jobs, boo.
Shit, man.
Shit,
Our
man.
jobs is gone now.
You took our jobs. Do you know where the term Utah came from?
Probably
I don't
Utes.
remember.
Well, yeah, there's this movie called My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, it came from the movie?
Yeah.
You care to show those eyeglasses to the jury?
There's this part here where
Two Utes.
You could say
I did say that. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Is it possible the two Utes?
To what? What was that word?
What word?
To what?
What?
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
What is a Ute?
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor.
we're Utes. That's what. That's where Utah came from.
Oh.
So
I
the
didn't realize that
Utes,
movie was so old.
pretty good movie. I actually just rewatched it a little while back. I remember that scene. But
Are you a Ute, Chris?
yeah, I'm a graduate from the Utah. Yeah,
It's called a Utard.
a Utah. Yeah, I went to the University of Utah. I taught
Makes sense.
undergrad. If you follow Utah football, I taught undergrad Spanish to Morgan Scally, who is now the head. What is he the head coach? Of
Well,
the,
now you got to tell the people what it really was. It was youths.
yeah, youths. Yeah, youths.
TH, youths.
Yeah, to use. But every time I hear Utes, I still think that to this day. Utes, we're the Utes.
The
Look at these Utes running around the field out there.
Oh, Utes running
Those
around out
Utes
there.
running around. Yeah. But is Morgan? Is he? Yeah, just as a football. Is he the head coach there now? Anyway, after most of them, this guy right here, I taught undergrad Spanish to him as a TA at the University of Utah.
Small world.
Yeah, that's Chris's Forrest Gump connection of the week. Because just being in Central Murray, I came into some sort of weird contact with almost everybody. Although, did you know, in that RFM episode with all those ladies, that Julie Hanks, like her dad and her whole family are the ones who created Saturday's Warrior.
Julie
Like, wrote
Hanks'
this song.
family.
Julie Hanks' family is the Saturday Warriors, creators and performers.
Wow.
I did not know that. Yeah. White food. So did you guys ever really eat we all really did come across Mormon Jello, right?
Not
Oh, yeah.
really. I
You never did?
like the green with the carrots in it.
Yeah, you never had green
Not
carrots
carrots.
or
I
green
never-
cottage cheese?
No, ours was like some kind of fruit cocktail, canned fruit cocktail poured into the Jello. So it would be like
So there was Jello with chunks in it, and that always pissed me off because I just wanted normal Jello.
Me too, but I really did quite a few times come across the green Jello with carrots.
Mm.
Quite a few times. But anyway, all the way back to this, I was going to bring up, you heard the concept of the color revolution. I guess we brought it up over there.
Victor Orban was talking about color revolutions.
Well, I mean, they're covered pretty heavily in that Scott Horton book, right?
Yeah.
And-
Well, no, I mean Ben Shapiro interviewed him the other day, and he's talking about the color revolution, the revolutions of color.
Yeah. They're real. There was a million of them. The Velvet Revolution, all these different things, and what they were is the CIA. They would go into these different countries and claim a certain leader that they didn't want to be there was an authoritarian. You heard that word floating around a little bit lately. See, this authoritarian are not to throw them under the bus, but I'm going to throw them right under it. That's one of those phrases. I did it. The thing that you're going to go do, you say not to do right before you do it. But our boy Seth, who we talked to, he's been on it with all this sort of stuff, and he said it is now
you should
time.
invite him on.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can try to
Come
do
on if he wants.
it. Yeah.
But I'm gonna go off on him on that stupid ass video
See if
he
he's
posted
awake.
earlier.
See if he's not doing anything. Maybe he'll.
Oh, you mean
jump
like
on.
right now?
Yeah, and defend himself. Defend his transcendence.
Yeah, he's looking. Yeah, he's the transcendent arguments, which lately he's just been kind of jumping on every single thing. But
You've been boomer posting.
yeah. But I saw him say it is time for us to exercise the Second Amendment and pull out the guns against this authoritarian government or something like that. And that's not what mid-level violence of a color revolution is or is done. This mid-level violence concept from Samuel T. Francis, it's contained. It's contained violence. They're only ever going to do stuff that they think kind of moves a needle and might spark authoritarian reaction. They're not going to actually like pull out guns and shoot anybody. They're going to just do little mid-level violence of little things that kind of break and blow stuff up and throw rocks at stuff and throw things at stuff and try to spark. You remember that moment when that guy pepper sprayed all those kids on that campus?
Oh. Wait. No. Sounds familiar.
It was a really viral moment, and a lot of people say it is the moment that sparked that whole entire what was that movement against Wall Street in like 2008 and 9?
Occupy?
The Occupy, yeah. So this moment right here, let me show it to you. You don't remember seeing present.
2008, I was paying very little attention to politics.
What were you paying attention to?
My junior year.
Banjo Kazooie. Oh, this you never saw this moment right here.
Oh yeah, I've seen that picture.
So these kids were sitting on some campus. The movement was nothing. It didn't have anything going on, and this guy just walked up and casually pepper sprayed all the kids. You can see like the video of it, man. Here you go.
This
Watch
was in 2008.
Yeah. He just walks up. The kids are sitting in.
No, you get
sprays them down.
Okay, wait, is that pepper spray? Because they're not like.
I think they start breaking up in a second. It always takes a minute for it to kick in. Look at him just kind of.
Oh, he's trying to get those ones off the sidewalk, but only the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It looks like he's watering grass.
Oh, but
yeah.
Them too. Oh, geez.
So whatever that move was went so viral. It was like
Wait,
one of the.
Is that Occupy Wall Street? Is that what you just said?
This
Sorry,
kicked off
only half
Occupy Wall Street. Like this was Occupy Wall Street was kind of just like a murmur, and then this thing happened, and it shot through the moon. And that's the point of mid-level violence. Like the point of like the protests and do these different things or like kind of agitate a little bit until you spark some authoritarian reaction. That's the whole idea behind it.
So that reaction of getting pepper sprayed is what they
that was a lot of people. I saw PBD go on some show and say this is a war of optics. It's a photo shot. It's a photo shoot war. It's like who's going to get the best picture that sparks people to
What's funny
side
about
with them.
that is that they can't get it because people are burning up cars and stuff.
Well, because all their stuff looks bad. Their mid-level violence is going too strong. But that's what I'm saying is like when Seth calls for like go full Second Amendment and start shooting stuff. Like no, that's not how that works. That's not how mid-level violence works. This is the concept of mid-level violence was talked heavily about Samuel T. Francis, who brought up the whole deal. And it is kind of one of those old phrases that they say like any sort of protestation or slight violence from the left is to be tolerated. Marcuse's world. But any violence from the right is fascism and fall fascism. We're in full fascism. Oh my gosh. We just saw like a couple hours ago, I guess that senator in California got wrestled down and they're going to make all the hay in the world with that. And they're really just like looking for a moment. They're looking for, James Lindsay would always call it like they're looking for a trans Floyd. Like somebody reacts to this so strong that we get a George Floyd moment. And those moments, they don't have to be, like everybody knows that the Rosa Parks thing was a photo op, right?
I mean, we do, but
yeah,
no, not everybody
here.
Yeah, no. Seth posted that stupid video of the guy getting cuffed. And the caption is U.S. Senator cuffed for asking questions. One of his friends was like, oh, what's the context? Seth was like, seems like I was right and you were wrong. Like, no. The context is he had a meeting with Kristi Noem later. And he showed up early. And he went to a press conference, even though he's not press. And he didn't have a press badge. He didn't have any identifying information hanging from his neck. And he marches up toward the fucking podium. And it obviously, and he's yelling, and her security like jumps up there, like, "Hey, buddy, let's get." And he's shoving it. He's a fucking linebacker. He's massive.
Yeah.
And they like shove him out of there. But he did say, "I'm Senator Padilla." They really should have believed him. I don't think anybody would lie to get close to a high-ranking political
Well, he said he purposely wasn't wearing his Senate pin and stuff like that.
Yeah. So calm the fuck down. You're just asking questions.
But those, if you like watch the video, you'll see him go to his knees first before like they jump to him and stuff like that.
He got what he wanted.
They're looking for that exact op. They're looking for it. They're looking for the overreaction.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the right's willing to give it to him, But
you could tell that's what he was looking for, because the question he was trying to ask, I think he didn't get. I think they weren't as fast as he thought they would be. Because whatever he had rehearsed, like he ran out of things to say and then just stupidly sat there trying to remember what he's going to say.
Yeah. So, are you able to see that? Are you able to read it? My eyes are a little bit blurry.
Yes.
That's pretty small.
Core tactics of color revolution. Are you wanting me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. 1.
Maybe from this
color revolution tactics refer to a strategic set of political, psychological, and organizational methods used to destabilize and overthrow a government, typically through non-violent or semi-violent mass mobilization, often under the banner of democracy, reform, or anti-corruption. These movements are called color revolutions because they're often named after a color or symbol, e.g. the Rose Revolution in Georgia, Orange Revolution in Ukraine, Tulip Revolution in Kazakhstan. Core tactics. 1. Mass mobilization of protesters. Large, coordinated public demonstrations are staged to generate the appearance of widespread discontent.
Generate the appearance of, because oftentimes there's a website you can even go look at. It's called like Crowds on Demand and that sort of stuff. Like when Maven said she was going to go start working in this stuff full time. Do you know how much some of those people make a year being those Crowds on Demand? Some of those people are making $80,000 a year being Crowds on Demand people. Yeah.
Good grief.
Youth groups and civil society organizations play a central role. All right. Symbolic branding. Movements adopt a color, flower, or slogan to create a simple, emotionally resonant identity.
I think they were trying to do that with the Mexican flag at first, but it was a bad.
Yeah, but now they got like the
idea.
Palestinian flag too. They got like a lot of shit in there.
I don't get the Palestinian
these fucking
flag.
retards are they weren't paid by these people. That they were just there like, oh, let's do Palestine too. What? This branding aids media coverage and boosts psychological impact. 3. Narrative control and media strategy. Controlling or strong influence over media is essential.
And that's they almost always first go in and plant in all their own reporters and get all their own people on that side. And this is generally talking about other countries. But one of the main things Scott Adams has been talking about for years, and I've pointed out too. And Dave Smith was talking about this and arguing about it with Sitch and Adams, and he didn't know what it was called. And I was
Operation Mockingbird.
I was the one who messaged in and told him the term color revolution, and he got it. You can go back and watch their debate, and you see it was me who popped in and told him it's called a color revolution.
Nice.
But go
ahead. Activists and sympathetic media frame the ruling government as illegitimate, corrupt, or authoritarian. They doing that? Social media amplifies dissent and spreads images of government overreach. 4. Election protests. Contested elections are a frequent trigger. Accusations of fraud, whether true or exaggerated, serve as a rallying cry to delegitimize the existing regime. 5. Civil disobedience and psychological pressure. Tactics include strikes, boycotts, sit-ins, and occupation of public buildings. The goal is to provide government overreaction, which can then be used to galvanize public anger and attract international sympathy. 6. Defection of elites. Success depends on persuading key figures, judges, judges, Jesus Christ. Security forces, political insiders to switch sides or remain neutral. Creating doubt or moral guilt among state officials is key to weakening regime cohesion. 7. Foreign NGO and government support. What?
Yeah.
Often supported covertly or overtly by Western NGOs, foundations, or governments.
Like
You
the NE
said
like the NED and
Yeah.
the USAID, yeah. But that's
ChatGPT is calling out USAID.
yeah, but that's one of the things about
Wow.
it is like so many different times when people think that like some money's going to some foreign country and it's called like USAID, that even that term is like a lie of a
Aid,
term.
yeah.
It doesn't mean like aid. What does it mean? It means like action interference or something like that.
Yeah.
And but they fund things and they say it's like for some sort of help of children's funding or something, and no, they're really just putting in their operatives into that country. And that this has been the tactics of the CIA for 50 years.
You're gonna have to screenshot this and save it for when color revolution is a more well-used phrase and people are more
You
attuned
want to
to
know
it.
what's
And then ChatGPT, they like program it to not give these straightforward, because it's saying like movements present themselves as peaceful defenders of democracy.
yeah. What's funny about it is it was on Wiki. This got memory hold on Wikipedia. Like we've seen so many things have happened for a long time. You know how Scott Horton's book goes into detail. This I told you the parts I kind of skipped over because I've read all like the Wikipedias on them before. But all those different color revolutions, there's been like 20 of them in 20 different countries. Anytime the U.S. didn't like any certain regime, they put a color revolution to force a change or to put in who they wanted in over there. And some people claim this is what happened for sure in Ukraine back in 2014. But the that was all in Wikipedia and all labeled out and all called color revolutions, kind of just like labeling out almost how Scott Horton's book was. And now it did the thing where it suddenly says color revolutions are a right-wing conspiracy or something like that. Like the Wikipedia really does say that now.
This has
That's
been
a-
paying attention too much. Now it is a conspiracy.
Well, that's right after Jordan Peterson started like really popularizing the phrase. What am I thinking of? Cultural Marxists.
Oh yeah.
Right after that, as soon as you look it up on Wiki, it was like it's a far right conspiracy theory.
Well, this is one of the things where it's always like tough with stuff like that on the right, because at some point or another, David Duke did take like heavy interest in the Frankfurt School. And because David Duke talked about the Frankfurt School, now at any point, if you say anything like like the Frankfurt School's bad or something like that, or not bad, is communist, they say that is a white supremacist talking point, like from David Duke. So it's like those people, anytime they notice something, it almost kind of does a disservice, because now, I mean, Sam Harris even did it today with Jordan Peterson. He said that Martyr Made was regurgitating points from David Icke, I guess this revisionist World War II writer who really is kind of a goofball. But just because that guy said a couple things, like maybe Churchill exacerbated some stuff, and that was in his book. Now Martyr Made is using a Nazi sympathizer's talking points.
This discourages crackdowns and attracts foreign legitimacy, even when the tactics are disruptive. They wanted me to.
And did I stop scrolling down? I was looking on another page. Hold on.
Yeah. Criticisms of color revolution. Critics like Samuel T. Francis, Dugan, or anti-globalists argue that color revolutions are not organic uprising, but engineered regime changes serving geopolitical goals. Well, hang on. They argue that they're not organic uprising. Like, didn't you just explain that they're not organic at all? Like, they're very organized. They are viewed as a form of soft power warfare, undermining national sovereignty under the guise of democratization. Examples: Serbia, Georgia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, whatever. Belarus.
Would you like a comparison between color revolutions and traditional coups? But so one of the things people were always saying, they were always warning, even going back to Iraq, and it was a warning to the neocons or the conservatives back in the Iraq war, that people would always just say, hey, they're going to bring those tactics home and turn them back on you. Yeah. And here we are. And you can really just say everything since the Summer of Love in 2020 up through to now, they've implemented the tactics of color revolution to try to either cripple stuff Trump was trying to execute, or overturn Trump, throw him over and get like sentiment on the other side of him. And one of the things that like you say, well, like you have all this like different stuff, like the Palantir stuff coming up at the same time with it, where they really are kind of trying to centralize over there in the Peter Thiel world, everybody's data just going to the same exact place and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, there's some sort of yin yang, or the Hegelian dialectic going on, because you can almost like sense too that these riots, are they good or bad for people who do want actual authoritarian power to come down? You know what I mean? There's some people who are like, well, this is perfect. Like now we really can bring in the U.S. government to stamp down.
Not so fast there, buddy. A judge just ruled that Trump can't do that.
Oh, thanks, judges. I was arguing with Seth about that coming. Because I saw Seth say the judges are the bosses of Trump. And
all of them?
Yeah, he said it just like that, and I'm not exaggerating. He just like said that thing. So you guys saw I took him to task of that a little bit. Like it's separation of powers. You know what I mean? Like there's one side that does one thing, and each one of those sides can overreach. And the judges are the ones. Judges can cause constitutional crises as much as Trump can cause a constitutional crisis, as much as Congress can, by overstepping their powers. And it could come from any single direction from one of them. But one of the funny things about like the judge aspect of it, and what so many people are talking about, is judges is the one area that's not elected. You know what I mean? So you got this whole group of unelected oligarchs and all the NGOs who are unelected, kind of figuring out how to hack our society to push things their direction. And ultimately, that's like what you could call deep state stuff. The CIA doing this sort of thing and turning it inward.
It's a distraction from Pride Month, I think.
Yeah. Somebody else put a funny meme about that one. I just pulled that one up. Hold on. This one right here. These gay pride parades are getting crazy.
I am old enough to remember when Gavin Newsom mobilized the National Guard on January 6th, 2021 for an isolated event on the entire other side of the fucking country. And nobody was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's been used several different times, and people try to argue tit for tat, well, that one was asked for by the state, and that one was this, and that one was that. And there's actually it happened a lot more times than people realize. Some people say it was only ever brought up for that Kent State thing, or it was only ever during the riots of 1992, and you keep hearing how come I keep hearing these 5 different versions of it was only ever this one time?
My favorite criticism is it's just theatrical. Trump is trying to make Gavin Newsom look bad. And I got 2 answers to that. One is I don't fucking care. Of course it is. Of course Trump's doing everything theatrical. But he also needs the National Guard. They're burning down this city. So yeah, it does make him look good. But it also happens to be probably a good thing to do.
I, for the life of me, could not figure out why it wasn't executed harder during the Summer of Love riots.
I know.
I couldn't believe they were standing back to it. And then, of course, that one fire at the where was it? The cathedral and by the White House or whatever. And they said, "Oh my gosh, he activated people against." They tried to use it as the version of authoritarianism, but they had lit the freaking cathedral on fire.
Well, the other part of it is it's just theater. To make Gavin Newsom look bad. Well, it's fucking working.
Yeah.
Man, is it working? Gavin Newsom could have just been like, oh yeah, I was going to ask you for the National Guard. Thank you for doing that. We need this for this riot. Really great. How are you he was trying for just half a moment to appeal to the moderates.
Yeah. Totally.
And now he's like, fuck that. I had to argue with Charlie Kirk and he butt fucked me. I'm going to stick to the radical retards.
I don't know. It was so weird. It's all so weird. But he didn't activate any sort of authoritarianism thing. Some people think it's because he thought it would be bad optics for the upcoming election or something like that. But I honestly, it was so funny during that time frame. You know, you got the Scott Adams like one screen, two movies being watched by two different people. But like my parents had no idea the Summer of Love happened, and they watched like MSNBC every day. You know what I mean? Like they had no idea there was 120 straight days of rioting in Portland and stuff like that. They just had no clue. And then when they saw the January 6th riots, we've not seen something like this. I'm like, what are you talking about? We saw something like this the past 6 months. What are you? This is just the other side, just barely kind of starting to do it like the other direction. But I think it's kind of funny because in most of the cases, like generally the conservatives would say, like, if anybody did get violent on January 6th, book them.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, don't. You know,
Well,
but
and it's rich as hell hearing Gavin Newsom accuse somebody of authoritarianism. The dude that fucking arrested a father for playing catch with his son alone in a park during COVID. The guy that arrested a man for what?
I feel like you're being a hypocrite right now because sorry, I can't do it with a straight face.
Do it.
You can't be mad about COVID and not be mad about this.
You trying to Seth me right now?
They're both authoritarian tactics. So you should be pro stopping the trucker rally.
I am proud of my Seth restraint this week because he has posted so much retarded shit, and I have only commented twice.
So I did not this has been like new Seth in my opinion. I don't feel like Seth has always been like that.
One of the things I showed you. No, you don't think you thought he was always like that?
No, I don't.
No. I agree. The only reason I showed you guys my argument I had with him is because I was kind of chiding him, just in the sense of, Seth, I know you know how to look up the other side of these arguments. Like, don't make me do them. Like, I know you can. You know.
So either Seth's been radicalized, or I've been radicalized into thinking that he's radicalized.
Forrest says he's fully deconstructed now. I guess that's
Forrest was the one on that post asking for context. Did you look up the context for it? Because I explained it on that post that he had.
So go ahead.
I think he'd still talk to you though. That's why I think
talk to, except Flip. He blocked Flip. I don't know. You know, like before this, the only thing I felt like he was totally blind on was the trans shit. Like he just could not really be reasoned with on that. But
well, Sam Harris had a good point today on Jordan Peterson, and he said, you know, some of this is the social media world that we're in, and there's no way that if we were sitting across each other from dinner, we'd get to like these levels of snark and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's totally true. But
maybe
the thing is with Seth is because I think so highly of his ability to research multiple sides. I feel like he knows the other side, and he's choosing to just not think that there's, or present that there's not nuance in this. You know?
It's more like church. If you don't go to church every week, you forget. That's why it's the same thing every single week. It's to remind you. And see, Seth has probably not been hanging out with cool conservative types lately. And so now he's forgot.
The strengthening of a testimony can be found in the bearing of that testimony.
I generally feel like with almost any position that if you can steel man the other side, I will back off that you chose the other position. Like I really will, you know, just as long as you can say that you actually know what the other point of view is, you know, a little bit. That brings to this because we had a little while back, Maven and Carrie say that we were libertarians, and because we were libertarians, we thought we were
scared conservatives.
Conservatives who were too cool or too smart to just say we were conservatives or something like that.
We're pretty smart.
I'm okay with you putting whatever label you want.
Yeah, I'm going to.
That's what I've decided to. Anytime somebody calls me a conservative, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
It's the same thing with atheist and agnostic, because I feel like if it's hard to say Christian, right? Because I don't say those foundational claims, right, that define you that way.
Yeah, I agree.
And I definitely
or you die for it.
Right.
That's what it means to believe in something, is you would die for it.
So yeah, like I think agnostic would probably be the best label, but I don't call myself that. I'll describe what I think, and then usually other people will say, "Yeah, that's what I think you are." I'm like, okay, I don't
Well,
care.
I think I brought something up to you guys this week that might be able to make Peterson's point a little bit less hyperbolic. Although I think sometimes hyperbole is the point because it's going to spark, reaction in debates and that sort of thing. But I think the concept of the soul is a little bit easier to understand what he's saying, just in the sense of I could talk myself 100% into believing on paper that we're all just meat machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't help but look at a face and see a soul. I can't help but look at a person and think that they're the soul of a thing or something like that, if that makes sense. And I think in that sort of way, and I think so many atheists are that way, and I mean that as a compliment to them, and just in general, like they see maybe not a fetus, but most of them see a person as a person, unless they're a Republican, right? But but they're thinking that there's something kind of transcendent in any person they come across. And I mean, they of course give it away when they start saying stuff about like I'm born in the wrong body and stuff like that, because that obviously implies that there's some sort of dualism. Yeah. But I think that they can't help but also view humans as something more important than just an ant that could be washed away in a tidal wave, and it doesn't matter.
Did you guys cover that Jordan Peterson stuff already last week?
A couple weeks ago, I think. Like
Yeah,
the Jubilee
Has it been
stuff.
that long? Yeah.
Yeah.
You already did.
Yeah.
No, you can go for it. What do you want to say?
No, I
You
just
can get your opinion on it.
Well, it's not hard to see the other side on that one, because I mean, even Christians will take them to task on the same thing. So I find that so funny. There's some scripture about being lukewarm or something, and then you'll be spit out. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. It's like everyone wants him to pick a side, and he's like so clearly not willing to. And I can totally see why, because he doesn't fully align with a Christian. I feel very much the same way. But he doesn't fully align with the people that are like attacking Christianity for not being what's the word for it? Like literal.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, like we said the other week, and I think it's true, that whenever the first debates, the first Sam Harris stuff, if you compare all that, what a cultural thing was compared to like their talk today, Twitter's bad. It sparked so much, and so much of the Christian side was there to jump in with Jordan Peterson, even though he wasn't full. He was more than most people had for a long time in that area, claiming Christianity enough and saying stop and rethink Christianity and all that stuff, but still ultimately wasn't claiming it himself. And there was enough of it that all the Christians jumped on his side. And especially you see the Latter-day Lobsters and all those sorts of people, like just a bunch of people like, yeah, he's making good arguments for Christianity. He doesn't believe it all the way, but there's arguments for it inside this meat body world too, type of stuff. And this time they weren't having it. They're like, you're in or you're out. Like, pick a side, asshole. Like they themselves got that way with him on this one. They weren't having it anymore either. So this little clip right here is I guess in the face of Maven saying that we think we're too cool for conservatism. This is an argument for conservatism that I always get behind, and I love the argument for conservatism that he gives here, and it's one of the reasons why I might be full-throatedly say, yeah, sure, I'm a conservative. Here goes.
I've suffered this all my life. That, well, at least ever since I became a conservative, which was in May 1968 in Paris. Yeah. I didn't know.
So
I had a very clear idea of how to articulate it. All I knew was that.
What's that?
It's so weird that he knew the date. Like it was like.
Well, there's a reason for it. He's going to say it. Right?
Some kind of conversion. Huh.
When I looked down the street and saw all these rowdy students throwing stones at policemen, I just said to myself, whatever they believe, I believe the opposite. Right. And then I didn't know what it was.
It's really like that simple. Like he saw rioters of like the riots of '68 and said, I'm not that. Like whatever that,
And then it was a sort of lifetime's work to find out what the opposite is. So, and I somewhat arrogantly came to the conclusion that it's if you start thinking about politics, in an intellectual way, you are likely to be on the left. Because that provides a systematic solution, an answer to the questions, puts it all in a system, and also gives you a rather dignified and self-congratulatory place in the system. But once you started thinking, if you think a bit harder and longer about it, you'll move back to what you would have been if you had never thought at all. And that's my view. Is what an intellectual conservative is. It's someone who articulates the real reasons for not having reasons.
Say that again.
Someone who articulates the real reasons for not having reasons, but just feeling and doing what's right.
Right. Well, I think,
all right, I guess I'm conservative. You know what does that to me is fucking philosophy.
Oh yeah.
I was talking in the chat about the vicious hell spiral I went on. It was mostly when I was on my mission, but it extended after that, where I was like trying to figure out how to be an altruistic person. And I was like, man, what does it mean to do a good deed? To do a good deed, you have to do something with no self-reward. Like, okay, try to think of something that isn't like self-serving in any way. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe giving a homeless man your money. I was like, but that's self-serving because it makes me feel good because I did a good thing. Dying for someone. No, because then I know in my final moments that I was valiant because so that's self-serving too. And it's just as terrible. There's absolutely, when you get down to the brass tacks, there is absolutely nothing you can do that is not self-serving in some way. And I'm like just trying to, like, it sends me into this full-on altruistic nihilism, which sounds contradictory, but eventually Ayn Rand corrects too far in the other direction, but reading her was very helpful because it made me realize that the answer to all that is, so what? I remember listening to it was Ben Carson, like, tearfully talking about his single mother who worked herself to the bone to raise him, did not allow him to hang out with like gangsters and stuff, and now he's like a brain surgeon. And in the most cynical of altruism, you could explain to her that it was self-serving, and the answer to that is, so who fucking cares? It's that what really got me was that scene in Fargo season 2. The best part of the whole season, the whole series maybe, is when that teenage girls talking about Camus and absurdism to the woman with a daughter and who has brain cancer and is dying, who has a husband who's out there risking his life. She's just like, I don't know who this Camus fella is, but I reckon he didn't have a 6-year-old daughter to take care of. And when you're facing your Lord and Savior, you tell him it was all some Frenchman's joke. I was like, oh yeah, that's the answer to all philosophy. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So what?
Totally. Yeah.
I don't care how many grains of sand it takes to make a heap, Socrates. Fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. And Jonathan's been, I don't know how much to say about it because he's kind of been telling us it in private, but I think it might be worth talking about it like a little bit because he's been kind of saying some of the same stuff and pulling up some Twitter things that seem to be pushing the other directions. But Ruby says the thing about virtue is that it in itself isn't self-serving. You may be doing it because it's a virtuous thing to do, and although it benefits you, you weren't doing it for that benefit. You're doing it to be virtuous, to be.
But me knowing that I did something virtuous is self-serving. Like it benefits me to know that I was virtuous. Like I did it because I wanted to be a virtuous person, and so it is self-serving. And the answer is, so what? Who cares? Of course it's self-serving. Of course you feel good when you do a good thing. But duh. And it's such an easy answer that, holy shit, I should not have had to read books to find that shit out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of what I felt like when I went to postmodern graduate school and all those years later when I got out of it, and I generally think like some of what helped to get out of it is just being like embodied, like getting into like working out heavier and just realizing that your body has limits and all that sorts of stuff helps mold the brain a little bit for it. There's a reason why people who are that way tend towards the conservative, and it is just a little bit of the same thing of like, no, you just do it. You just get up and do it, and you are what you are, and that you can't help it, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I had a general feeling that all of that schooling just twisted up all the Rubik's Cube. And then years later, I undid the Rubik's Cube to get back to where my two grandpas just always were and never left, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why'd I do all that Rubik's Cubing? You know?
I was standing on the backs of giants and I didn't even fucking know it.
Yeah, my grandpa, one was just like a beet digger and a coal miner, and the other one was just he was in the army as a medic and then was a doctor afterwards. And all they did was just march through and do their jobs and be happy and good. And I had to scramble up a Rubik's Cube with all this postmodernism first just to come back and say, no, just go try to be good and do good, but wasted a bunch of time in the middle, you know.
I think it's Yeats. Yeats has a wonderful poem, Easter 1916, and in there he has the "Come let us mock at the great that had such burdens on the mind and toiled so hard and late to leave some monument behind." He wrote that when he witnessed some Irish revolutionaries destroy a beautiful house of a very wealthy landed English Anglo-Irish person, and in a lot of ways that poem articulates that idea that it's very easy to destroy. And tear down, and I think one of the things that's so tempting for many people, because the world is so troubling to so many people, and so many people suffer in this world, and a lot of what the liberal
I like how a lot of this is infused with giving credence to like where they're possibly coming from in their hearts, you know.
left tends
I
to
think it's crazy how old this is, right?
Yeah.
Like, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is
Totally.
old, right?
Yeah,
No?
he's been dead for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
rely on is that sense of indignation that a lot of idealistic people feel, because there are things that are deeply wrong with the world. But then when we look historically at how, when these people have gotten into power, whether they're, I mean, people tend to forget that the Nazis were actually, they were quite bohemian in a lot of ways. They had a lot of leftist politics. Certainly their economics was tend to be collectivist, and they were national socialists as opposed to being internationalists. But when they get into power, they tend to really tear things down and don't give us a
well, I think there's an explanation of this. It's what Hegel calls the labor of the negative.
Right.
That the initial instinct on the left is that negative instinct, that things are wrong. And they must be rectified. They can only be rectified, however, by the seizure of power. And so we're going to seize power in order to rectify them. But once you've got the power, the negative is still there in your heart, because it's driven you all along. You know, that's the thing which has inspired you. So you set about destroying things, punishing people. You find classes who are to blame. You know, the Jews, the bourgeoisie, whoever it might be, and you don't get out of that negative structure. And I felt that's what I felt very strongly in 1968. You know, that okay, of course there are things that are wrong in France, but there are also things that are beautiful and right, and you've got to go through this and come back and rescue those things, which is much more important than.
I don't know if you guys know, but the postmodern movement, like the Foucauldian movement, all that stuff, they called them like the class of '68 because they were a bunch of people who started writing after they were pissed off that these riots didn't go far enough, and
destroying a few
This
obstacles.
guy sounds like Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah,
right. Blake has an interesting. He says the hand of vengeance found the bed to which the purple tyrant fled. The iron hand crushed the head, and came a tyrant in its stead. And that tends to be a pattern that we see again and again. That if you have, for instance, in Iran's a good example of that. I mean, Savak was one of the major reasons for the revolution itself, because the heavy-handedness of the Shah, his secret police, which he probably had no idea. They very often live in these silos and bubbles. But they've got, you know, the secret police, the apparatus all comes back. And the disappearing, the people that disappear all disappear again. So, I mean, this is part of the problem. But again, it's still this fundamental problem. For instance, I mean, one of the things that you talk about in Fools, Frauds, and Firebrands is the idea of power being the way in which everything is articulated. The critique is about power. I mean, Foucault is a good example of that, of somebody who just saw everything in terms of power. But there's definitely truth embodied in that, and I think that's why it's so seductive for so many people. I mean, we have to deal with the fact that so many people are seduced by this because they experience, especially marginalized and disenfranchised people.
Yes, that is true. But of course, in the intellectual world, it's extremely corrupting to see things in this Foucauldian way. You know, instead of asking the question, is what Hamza saying true? I ask the question, you know, what power is advancing behind that? you then disappear from the picture,
Right.
and also what you said disappears from the
Right.
picture.
Yeah.
I'm no longer engaging with you eye to thou at all,
Right.
because without the concept of truth, there is no real engagement between people. All I am seeing is the power that's speaking through you, and that, of course, you can look at the whole of culture in that way, which is essentially what the postmodern curriculum is,
Right.
taking one writer, one philosopher, one musician after another, and just talking about, like Susan McClary on Beethoven. This is fantasies of rape speaking through this
Right.
music.
Right.
It's extremely boring after a while because it's totally
Well,
mechanical.
it's a lens. I mean, one of the things I say about critical theorists, that if it was a lens, that it might be useful sometimes to just peer through that lens, but it's a corneal transplant.
That's
and
a good metaphor. Yeah.
It becomes the only way.
Yes.
And I've seen one of the things that I've seen with students in my own teaching experience is, I've had critical theorists in my classes, and whenever they raise their hand, I could almost verbatim tell them what they're going to say,
Yes.
the response that they're going to give to whatever was said.
Yes.
And
well, then we need to understand why it is so seductive.
That's my point.
Yeah.
It troubles me how seductive it's been, and it also, I grapple in my own self with the amount of genuine injustice in the world that takes place on a daily basis. And I mean, for instance, their attacks on capitalism, to me, the corporate world today is so powerful, and to use a favorite term in that world is hegemonic. This idea where monoculture becomes so imperious, and we've seen so many. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was young, one of the treats in my experience was to go to a bookstore. Bookstores have pretty much been wiped out in the United States because of these corporations. So small bookstores are not able to survive. So now you had Borders, but then Borders goes bankrupt, and then now we're left with Barnes and Noble, and so if you go in, who's picking those books? Who's actually choosing what books? Like if you go, for instance, to the teen section, it's almost all about vampires and really weird occultic stuff. It's not like, the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew mysteries. It's very corrosive ideas. And
we slightly changed the topic now. We're not really talking about
whatever. Twilight was great.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with the Hardy Boys. Did you guys have the accelerated reader program?
Oh yeah.
So I remember I had to do a test. Like we had to do a certain amount of tests, get a certain amount of points. And I was doing my last accelerated reader test, and it was on a Hardy Boys book, and I failed the test, and I was confused about it. And my mom's like, "How did you fail that test?" I was like, "Mom, the test was wrong. I don't there's a question it asked, and it had nothing to do with the book. I know I read this book." And she's like, "Well, that doesn't really make it." And so we my mom and she actually kind of trusted me, and so we do all this research on this book and find out there's 2 versions of the same fucking book, and we had to prove it to my teacher, and obviously she thought I was lying because of course you're gonna think.
And one of them was the Hardy Boys?
No, they were both. It was a Hardy Boys book, but there was 2 different published versions of it.
Well, we should get into this for
different
Jared's degenerate childhood reading.
Well, I did just finish the what was it? The fucking Jake Tapper book.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How was that? Did you find out why they were?
Dude, the other book was way better. I read 2 books on this, and it was the Jake Tapper one, and I can never remember the authors' names on the other one. It was called Fight. That one was way better. Partially because Jake Tapper's a fucking hack.
He's
they weren't telling us.
Himself.
Yeah, they weren't telling us. But
we as professional journalists were shocked to find out the White House can lie sometimes.
Well, it's funny because one of the quotes he used in the book was some other journalist saying, "We can never again use the strategy of telling Americans that what they're seeing isn't true."
That's a bad strategy now.
Fucking did, Jake.
We have to lament that.
This woman on, how do you think that makes kids with stutters feel when you make foot? We're not talking about a stutter, you fucking dumbass. We're talking about a guy that doesn't know what year it is, obviously.
What's so funny is in that Peterson and Harris discussion today, it was so weird because Harris is we still need those institutions. We still need every single one of them, the gatekeepers of what's real information, what's information.
Shut the fuck
And Peterson,
up.
but this was weird, is Peterson would bring up like, yeah, the New York Times has shot itself, and all these different like magazines have shot themselves, and the university has shot themselves. And Sam would be like, yeah, they have. Yeah, it's true, they have, but still, like I would like to sit down and have Sam Harris delineate to me, because he obviously has all the right information. Everybody else has the misinformation, which I hate that misinformation term, because that the way they use it is that misinformation doesn't technically need to be wrong.
No, I know that's the thing.
Right.
I'm like, we already had a word for that. It was called lies. It actually functions perfectly. If you're trying to say that somebody lied, they distributed misinformation. No, I know what you're saying right now means
You're
that
not
that
allowed to have a
person's
different
lying.
opinion.
Yeah. Well, the way they use misinformation is they'll also say that like the thing they're saying here is true, but it's bad for people to hear it. And you're like, well, what? That really is one of the definitions of like the new world fact checker misinformation.
Not everything that's true is useful.
Exactly. We have the cathedral, the media, the universities, and Hollywood or whatever doing that exact thing to us. They're all doing the what was that?
That's the phrase that always pops through my head anytime somebody says, like, how does this even affect you? Or like, why do you care about this? It's not everything that's true is useful. That's anytime we get to the trans debate, and I will like that ex-Mormon page before I got kicked out was just like a trans rights page at that point. And I was like, okay, you guys are talking about unrelated shit. I'm going to talk about it too. And I'm going to push back. And anytime I would get their back to a wall, that's their thing. They might as well have told me not everything that is true is useful.
Yeah, there's a lot of
why do you
stuff.
care?
This week there was a pitcher, a boy pitcher, won the little girls' little league, and he pitched 5 straight games, no hitters to win. Like that's such like a thing of one person can really overtake a whole entire league, because none of the girls could just hit this one boy, and they took the championship just from that one boy pitching 5 straight games. Like normally in the regular world, you pitch one game, rest a game, that sort of deal. 5 straight games to win and then why do you care? What are you noticing? And it became this big thing because what's her name? That Olympic gymnast gal,
Simone Biles.
Biles said something about the games, kind of like, why do you care about this? And it turned out that in her past, she had all sorts of stuff of saying, I'm glad men don't compete against us. They would kill us and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start using that argumentation against Palestine protesters. They're like, there's a genocide happening in Gaza right now. Like, how does that affect you? Why would you care about that? I'm not going to argue the numbers with you. I'm just going to tell you why that doesn't affect you.
I don't know if I have the clip either, but speaking of that, there's this awesome girl, for real, this girl baseball player in college baseball. She's like the Babe Ruth of baseball. If you watch some clips on her, she goes yard more than anybody ever in history. And she just won the championship for college baseball. And in the entire final game, they wouldn't pitch any pitches to her. There was just straight walk. And then in the final inning, they have bases loaded, so they can't walk her. And she gets one good pitch. Yard, just boom, right. And then she has the best batting average in history for women, and it's really cool to see a gal be that.
I was getting ready for you to tell me she was a man.
No. It's awesome that there's a woman who can be awesome. You know what I mean?
Just kidding.
That reminds me, I have a submission for Autistic Hero of the Week. I sent it to the group, but you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, okay, I'll pull it up. We'll get through this. There's only a little bit more, and then I wanted to just jump really quick over to the RFM female discussion, since we're talking about people who get stuck with the critical eye.
About this postmodern obsession with power,
right.
We're talking about change in the structure of life,
right? And but for me, a lot of, I'll give you an example. Herbert Marcuse, who I'm not a fan of by any stretch, but when I read some of his works, I was struck by real insights about things that were very troubling about American culture. One-dimensional man, this idea of a consumer and life as consumption, and losing meaning. His solutions is a whole other problem. And this is something I think that's very seductive, is that the critical aspect of Marxism and neo-Marxism has always been, it's always had a resonance in a lot of people. There's something very, very powerful about it. when you get to solutions and how we deal with these things, we're in another realm. But if I think if conservatives don't really address the real serious critiques that are there about the status quo.
Yeah, I think you're right. They have perhaps neglected those critiques, but you know, as I was saying earlier, the purely negative approach to the status quo is simply going to perpetuate this negativity, and has done. If you're not, the typical conservative, in my reading of events, is someone who looks around himself and he finds things that he loves, you know, and he thinks, well, those things are...
It's such simple description. You know, can you look around and find things that you love just about how the world is right now? Because the whole leftist view is like all the status quo must go.
Are threatened, they're vulnerable. I've got to protect them. And it's not often that you find on the left somebody who looks around and finds things that he loves. It's always something that's gone wrong, something that is even hateful, and you've got to mobilize against it. If you've lost any sense that actually the world is lovable and that there are things therefore to be rescued in it, you have actually lost the sense of why there is such a thing as a community in the first place. And that, I think, is one of the things that I felt very strongly throughout my life, that there really are wonderful things that we've inherited. All Americans, however, whatever position in society they are still heirs to something rather remarkable. You know, a rule of law which goes on perpetuating itself from generation to generation. If only people knew how rare that was, they would see that they've got to fight to preserve it.
Yeah, but I'm sure they would say that there's stuff they love, and that's why they fight. They fight because they love, right?
Diversity.
That's a super cool clip. Like, I even liked his little bit about, like, okay, I liked his bit about how he gave them their best view of why they believe what they believe, right?
Yeah, coming from a good place for the majority of them.
Individual, right? Like, that is a valid criticism. So
and he's also saying that's why intellectuals go that way. You know, he's not saying calling them dumb. You know,
right. So, so one thing that I do, and I can't help it, and I think it's probably an error in some way, is I like can see patterns on both sides of things, and then I just equate them, right? So, like, even with this stuff that's been going on, I was like scrolling through Twitter, and people are posting, if you see violence happening, sit down. Don't let the Proud Boys infiltrators like rile up the mob. Huh?
Are the Proud Boys even actually around anymore? They're all in jail.
This is their narrative. I have no idea. Like,
yes,
this
suddenly Antifa infiltrators might be a real thing. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, you did.
No, that's what they were saying. Like, when January 6th happened, it's like, oh, conservatives wouldn't do that, so therefore it must have been Antifa that riled them up.
As opposed to them, because I do think that there was FBI instigators, especially like that one dude that they have on camera that they never.
The Ray Epps. But everybody started chanting "Fed, Fed."
But I think there was plenty of actual just Gomer conservatives who fell for it.
Yeah,
and that's not excusable. You know what I mean? Like they went with it.
Sure, and you created a mob with, and so there's like this equating, right? And then I was like, I don't know that that's always true. That like just because you can see similar pattern doesn't mean that both sides are equally right or wrong. But that is where my mind goes. Like that's what my
tactics get real similar for sure.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I think is one of the things that James Lindsay's been on about, where there's some credence to what he's saying in some of that, especially when you get to like the real deal people pushing the same stuff. Because I was bringing up earlier that so many of kind of the normal conservatives, when they look at that thing with the flag, they say these guys are being obtuse. You know, they're just not realizing that, like, hey, I'm cheering on a country which I will be devastated if I get thrown back into. But the dissident right, those people get called woke right, and they might have a point too, but they say, no, this is the point that we're talking about. A people are a people, and it is Mexico wherever they go. You know what I mean? So they're making that argument of these people bring themselves and their country to the place that they're in, and you can't interchange them like in the liberal mind frame of like, as soon as they get here, they adopt the Constitution and they adopt our way of seeing the world that we're fighting for. No, they're just, we are Mexico just here now type stuff, and we're gonna do stuff our ways and form our own enclaves and make here there type stuff. And there's some arguments to that point, but they also just have no love lost, or I mean, no sort of, it's a weird phrase, academic agent will always say it, that these are one of the ways that the left is more right than the right, or something like that, because they'll say like those Mexicans know that they can make it Mexico wherever they go type stuff. And I don't know that anybody's thinking about it that hard, but they're also making that argument for identity being, you can't, something you can't overcome,
Yeah.
Speaking of the critical eye, this whole 4 hours was just straight the critical eye of Mormonism, because Austin Fife gave his chapters obviously a bit obtuse about why Mormonism is great for women, right? But of course he couldn't say that because he was a man. He couldn't be making those points, even though most of what he was doing was pulling up data that supports it. And you guys have heard of like a lot of the different data, like and these guys would make the point that that's not just Mormons, but a lot of the data that religious people have better sex or something like that, or feel safer in their marriages, or have longer lasting marriages, or the women in those situations.
Yeah, but the marriages are terrible.
Yeah, well, I think you could put on your old wig of what was that character you used to do, and have just been another. Yeah, you could have been a panelist on this the whole way through and known right exactly what to say for each one of the things. Because, of course they say, well, the self-reporting, I love how, like, to go along with what Marty says, like, if there's any self-reporting anywhere, the other side doubts it because self-reporting is bad. But if it's something that supports them, it's good. It's just one of those things that they will 100% be across the board. And what the truth is with that is they're both probably right, like self-reporting shit. But I think Peterson kind of was like, you don't know what you really think or what you do or how happy you are or not. But it's so hard on like saying like what's happiness or not, or that sort of thing. But maybe people are happy if they just say they're happy. Maybe that's been one of the tricks of happiness. Anyway.
Positive affirmation's okay unless it's church members just doing it.
Yeah, unless it supports the church or something like that. But maybe they're true. Maybe it's true. Maybe some people are smiling through complete pain too. Like it's like there's credence to all the sides of it or whatever. Yeah. But of course, these guys are only going to see the critical view of it. But they brought up one point that just really got in my craw a little bit, and it's right here.
Communities treating equally, right? Like I don't want to be idealized. I want to be valued. Yeah. I want to be seen as a valuable participant, not as something that's, so untouchable. So wonderful. And, yeah.
Is it fair to say that idealizing women is another way to objectify them?
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
It's you do this you play this role, you be this image, this angel mother for.
This is dumb too, but this isn't quite it yet. It's getting
for me and meet my needs. It's all about like, I mean, even when people talk about their mothers in general conference, it's all like, she sacrificed everything for me.
This part right
here. Wait.
Yeah.
They never do that about
She's Dad. Not a self.
Have you been to like
for
Mormon women funerals like that, where the whole thing is like what she did for everybody else? I was at one of these and I'm bawling because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who this woman was. And everybody's looking at me like, wow, she's really taking this death really hard. But I was crying because her only value was like, this is what mom did for me. This is what my wife did for me. She never complained. Exactly. She always made me a sandwich when I asked for a sandwich. And I'm bawling because like, oh my God, this woman was never a person outside of.
I bet mom, if she's like sitting there in her spirit form watching the funeral, is pissed, right? I bet she's like, these assholes are talking about how awesome and giving I was.
Yeah.
What do you want her to talk about, Britt?
It really irritated me like a whole lot, because even worse, because I was thinking about like my funeral, and I'm like thinking like, what would these guys would think gave you value? Like, so I play in a band, right? I write songs. If I go to a funeral and everybody goes, he wrote a pretty good song that one time, that's about it. I'd be like, oh shit, I was a failure of a person. You know what I mean? Like, I would want to go to a funeral and hear that people felt that I was there for them and did things for them. That's what I would want to hear.
Have you ever been to a funeral, a man's funeral, where they talk about his career the whole time?
No, that sounds terrible. Like I would be like, this is Scrooge. This is like Scrooge. If he's the ghost of Scrooge watching this, he's the one crying, not Brit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that because the most common phrase that men will use about other men when they're talking about how awesome of a guy he is he'd give you the shirt off his back. And next time somebody says that to me, I'm like, oh, so he's only valuable in relation to you and in relation to what good he does for you.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
he takes away
it's
from
just
himself to
strange.
give to you.
Generally, you want people talking about your good virtues, right? And service is a very good virtue to have. So it's strange to me.
I would want my funeral to be far more talking about stuff that I did for the people in my life than what is the thing of value that they're complaining. We have more value. We have more. He was the leader of a church. Like you wanted that to be the thing. Like, I mean, most times they're like including that with some sort of service, obviously. So maybe that's not so bad for some people. But
I'm gonna be up there in ghost form watching my own funeral and be like, everybody's talking about how nice I was. They're not gonna be talking about that, but hypothetically, everyone's talking about how nice and giving I was. Nobody mentioned I was like a fan of like Zelda. Huh? I played guitar. Nobody said anything about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if it was something like amazing, like say you wrote yesterday from the Beatles or something, and they're just there saying like, "Well, he wrote yesterday." Like, I honestly feel it would come across like he did something. I guess like fuck this guy, but you know, at least there's a song.
Troy,
Yeah.
he took great Instagram pictures and had lots of followers.
Yeah, I mean, but when I think of like the best possible thing that I don't know what they would consider value, I would find that as lesser to having been somebody who served my children if I had children. You know, that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think this is like the critical eye gone awry in my view. But I don't know.
Yeah, when my dad dies, I'm not gonna be like, he really liked Tommy Boy. I mean, like my dad worked like 10-hour days, 5 days a week for the longest time for just shit pay at a job that he hated. And every time he came home, he asked if I wanted to play catch. I bet my dad would hate it if I said that.
Yeah. Well, I know we haven't shared the old Home Math in a while, but Jonathan found a video by Home Math. You were like, it'd be a bit long. I don't know if I really want to play the whole thing, but he was talking about like how the society's structured, and I think he said he shared it with the influencers, the Mormons, and
I actually didn't watch it yet.
You haven't watched it?
No.
Well, he's just talking about how society crumbles because people get, well, I guess, up into their just wants and needs of doing what they want to do and not being a part of a society. And then, you know, he found some other posts on Twitter where people were just kind of like pointing, oh, look at this. Those base camp guys had that whole thing on the birth rate is collapsing because of therapy. They also had another question, like, is it Islamophobic to mandate adult marriages? You know, and
sure.
I thought that was one of the ones that you could bring up to like Bill Rill, who was like, could anybody come argue this about Joseph Smith? I go, well, could you argue it against the Islamists? I mean, I bet you would, but maybe not if the Islamists were listening in that moment. You know?
That's another place where the answer "I don't care" comes into play.
Yeah.
Is it Islamophobic to illegalize child marriage? Maybe. I don't fucking care. We're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. Here it is.
We might be stuck in a pattern of civilizational collapse, and it's because our relationships are not as strong as they used to be. This video is a long overdue answer to the question, why is promiscuity bad? The answer is kind of complicated. Let's start with this. Why would promiscuous behavior, as pictured here, cause a collapse of civilization? I put together this map. It's originally created by Ken Wilber. This is just my easy-to-read version, as a quick reference for developmental psychology, how people's minds individually from birth until...
What's that?
Easy to read.
Easy to read. It's not autistic at all.
Wherever you stop.
This is what I say was like really kind of like the autistic or the male brain. And I think so much of the red pill world is this and stuff that's like, you're not wrong, you're just autistic. You know what I mean? Because they're very often kind of like breaking down, like, if you look at society, the women are going to divorce you. Like, yeah, statistically, like on a level, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? But
and
if you're only going by what the system says, and not off of like what you can make of your life, you're maybe looking a little bit too much at the forest of the trees.
How that affects the development of society and culture. And over here, there's this little grid that shows the individual mind and culture and individual behavior and society. The way that people's minds work is going to form a culture. The way that culture works is going to shape society. The way that society works is going to influence your mind, and the way your mind works will influence your behavior. All these things are interrelated. So society, which we depend on for everything we have, is based on the way that we relate to each other, which is falling apart very quickly, due in large part to acceptance of promiscuous behavior. Here's a bunch of little heartbreaks and lower relationship strength. Our relationships also suffer because we don't understand each other, and that's something you can fix. And today's sponsor, Ground News, can help. You are on the internet right now, so there's a bias in women and girls. They even have a blind spot feed instead of thinking about what's right. Basically, when to every feature. That's ground.news/HM for 40% off the Vantage plan. Click it in the comments. If we remain unable to understand each other, we tend to do what we want instead of thinking about what's right. Basically, when people are allowed to do whatever they want, it degrades us from this stable model of courtship and relationship formation to this unstable one. In the old one, we could have stable marriages that were enforced by social convention.
I don't really say like too much about it, but like I think Jonathan said that this kind of gets into some description of why he doesn't feel so keen on tearing down Mormonism so much anymore.
Yeah, no, that's basically the equation I came up with.
And in the new one, there's a few guys who get all the attention that they can handle, and so they don't commit to women, and therefore most of the women get played and dumped over and over, and these guys get no attention, and that makes everyone unhappy, and it also is really bad for stable marriages that produce children. And this model is only possible when people believe I can do whatever I want and you can't judge me. If you allow people to behave like this, then they stop building this and it turns into this. Modern people believe that the world is made of individuals. It is actually made of relationships, in the same way that a pile of bricks is not a building. In order for the building to work, the bricks have to be arranged in a certain way, they have to be connected, and once the bricks start saying, I don't want to be part of the building anymore, I want to do me, then the building starts decaying, and then the other bricks say, well, if you're not doing your job, then I won't do my job. And we go from a building to a pile. A big part of this decay is the sexual revolution, which is actually just a decay. It's reverse development. We are going from higher levels down to lower ones. I've been over this in previous videos. This one's called Saturday Scaries. Basically, all cultures have to grow through these levels. You can't skip stages. And when a culture develops from this low impulsive stage to the rules and roles stage, they come up with strict social norms, and they eventually grow to the achiever stage, which is like corporate, keeping up with the Joneses, and eventually into this sensitive, individualistic hippie stage where people start saying, hey man, everyone's like unique and we should all do what we want, bro. And at that stage, they have a tendency to get rid of the rules at this stage, and then all of the new people who are born, because everyone's born at stage 1, they don't have any rules to learn to grow up to the next stages, and it causes developmental arrest, and people get stuck down here. That's what we're experiencing right now. So this is not moving beyond the rules, it's just getting rid of them. Way back at the beginning of my channel, somebody asked me, why is promiscuity bad? I didn't even have colored pencils yet. There's the old version of the drawing. I think she thought she got me. I don't think she expected this as an answer. So this perception has become really common.
All right, that's just, you know how like Maven gets mad if you're like, well, they're going to come up with proofs and stuff like, what are they going to do with these proofs? Like, sorry, that's the autistic brain. We're part of the Exmormon story too.
And ironically, it's coming from a really high level of development. What they're saying is that we should all be allowed to do what we truly want and be who we are, and society's rules are just holding us back from our true selves. And that might be true if both you and your partner or partners are at this level, but that's really, really rare. So if you are a young person growing up and you hear that message that society is just holding us back from what we really want, you're not going to hear it at this level because you are not there yet. You're going to hear that message at the level that you are on, and it's going to sound like everyone else is trying to get their own way, and so I'm going.
So I feel like there's a little bit of sense in that, in the whole like RFM thing, because like so many of those women deconstructed after they did the Mormon trad life first, and they think that's worse, like they missed out on life, but that's probably worked out better for them. You know what I mean? Like,
God, yeah.
Like when you were younger and less developmental, you did. It's almost kind of like the luxury beliefs.
I need to come up with an exact equation of this, but I've been telling people for years. I remember mentioning it on Morgan's channel. I don't think her fans liked it very much, but I always said that there's a certain, and I never put it on paper, but there's a certain algorithm to leaving the Mormon church. There's a certain age that if you get to that age, or status in life, you should not leave the Mormon church anymore. I think if you're like anywhere from, I don't know, like childhood to like 23, 24, you're going to be kind of all right to leave the Mormon church, especially if you aren't married yet. But it gets worse and worse and worse the further into it you get. So if you're like a 35-year-old dude and you've got like a wife and like 3 or 4 kids in the Mormon church, I think generally it's way more difficult to leave because you have built an entire person inside the Mormon church. It's very sort of commanding on your identity. And so the more of an identity you build, it's all built on the Mormon church. And then when the Mormon church leaves, it often, for a lot of people, just totally collapses into nothing. And so you're left as a 35-year-old dude with 4 kids and a wife who might still be in the church, who knows, trying to build an identity from scratch. And that gets you, I had a friend who that this happened to her, and she was like she's got like a 16-year-old daughter who is now that they're not Mormon wanting to wear like halter tops to school and shit. She's like, I don't know what to do because I don't want to slut shame her. And I was like, just go ahead and slut shame her. Like this, it's. I mean, that's what you want to call it. Just slut shame her.
My reasons for not having reasons. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't like that.
I don't have to explain to you why that's not slut shaming. I mean, it's actually really easy because it's against the fucking school rules anyway to wear a halter top at high school. So, you know.
Yeah.
This reminds me of Jonathan Haidt a lot.
Yeah.
He even in his TED Talk, there's this panel that he shows of like degradation of society. He's like, like why do we need all the taste buds that conservatives carry? Like the moral taste buds. And he's like, well, if you don't, then, and then there's some panel that he shows with, beautiful society, and then one that's kind of falling apart, and then one that's just all chaos. It just reminds me of, that's what.
Marty, do you think if you had deconstructed at 15, your life would be at a good place now, or at a bad or a worse place?
Well, I don't. So there was a chance right after we got married. There was a chance that we were going to go down this path. That's when I first encountered like Joseph Smith having more than one wife on Wikipedia. Wikipedia was just becoming a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I often think about like, what if we'd gone down our life would definitely look different. I don't think we would have as many kids, for one. Yeah, it would be different. I don't know. Good chance it's better. There's a good chance that it would have been just fine too, though. I don't know. I'm pretty conservative myself without the church, so having the church, having like the church plus my conservative temperament.
You don't think you would have had a like some sort of wilding out period or any sort of thing like that? Like, I gotta go drink and party.
Oh, I absolutely would have. If I left the church when I was 15, I probably would not have any kids right now. I might be married, I don't know, but I would have been as slutty as it is within my ability to be, and I would probably be fatter than I am right now too. I don't know.
A fat slut.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad though that I have my kids. I'm almost glad that I was conned into having so many. That's how I kind of feel like.
Hell yeah.
I don't know that I would have had them otherwise.
See, I had kids after I left the church, but that's because I was already married and stuff. I think if I left the church before I got married, I would have went through a crazy slut phase. I would have met somebody who's just insane, and not like Morgan levels of insane, like really insane, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I left like so young that I do think like it affected outcomes, and you know, had I married a certain person that was more kind of religious type, and we done the thing, and then I left later, I'd bet that I would be like in a better place, just as far as like I would have ended up having kids and stuff like that. That's why I kind of say it's like a luxury belief. You know, do you remember Rob Henderson's luxury belief?
Yeah.
He says this thing, you're going and preaching this stuff, but you're able to preach it because you now are in a position of privilege. And so I feel like a lot of these different women they're upset that they didn't have their young dumb youth, but at the same time they had a very structured youth that made them all quite, or helped bring them to the place of all being quite wealthy and having big families and a lot of support around them. And you know, Peterson's always kind of given that warning of like, yeah, you say you don't want kids or anything, like, you young women, you're gonna turn around and be 35 and be like, what? And that's gonna happen more and more and more nowadays, and happens to men too at the same time.
I am like a full-on pro-natalist at this point. there's this like 22-year-old kid at work who was talking about, like, he's engaged and he's talking about going in to get a vasectomy. And I don't know, I feel like 5 years ago I'd have been like, I don't think you should do it, but it's none of my business. 10 years ago I would have been like, yeah, do whatever. And now I'm like, yeah, that's a bad idea. Like, I just told him that, and he's like, why? I know I don't want kids. And I was like, yeah, so did I when I was 22. And he's like, I've known I didn't want kids when I was 18. I was like, that doesn't prove your point.
Well, say, like, I have some of these points, like, even Brittany Hartley admits this herself, because she has those whole clips about, you want to know what? I hate to tell you, but atheism is a privileged position. It's usually for white privileged people type stuff. And the Ward Radio guys were saying that this week. Well, how many young minorities are, it's all old white people who are becoming atheists and that sort of stuff. And Cardin took opportunity to say atheists are racist just because of that type stuff. But she's almost kind of made that same point for him from a Kendia's standpoint. But I was this week, she popped on the Lobsters and then left, and somebody in the Lobsters posted that she's married to this guy who owns a bunch of ice cream creameries and that sort of stuff. And so you see that she like has like all this, like these degrees and all that sort of stuff, but you stop and go like, wait a minute, like were you able to deconstruct because you got in a privileged position and then you to go do all this like schooling without much worry on the financial end to go do all this stuff? If you had left when you were 13, 14, 15, would it have been such a route that you could have done that, or had some party lifestyle or something? But in that whole discussion, some of those women seem to be lamenting that they didn't have their young and dumb Kwaku phase. Oh, that's his term of his place. But
I lamented that for, I don't know, maybe a month or two. When I first left the church, I was like, man, I could have had my slut phase. I could have gone and been free. And there's actually this, I don't know if you've seen him. They usually call him the smiling comedian. His name's Ryan Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. He's older.
Yeah, he's actually a Mormon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's got this bit that it's great. And it also just kind of bums me out because he seems like a nice enough dude, where he talks about that freedom. And he's like, people are like, oh yeah, you're single, you're so free. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I tell you what, when I'm laying in bed sleeping alone, I just wake up in a cold sweat and be like, oh my God, I feel so free. And I look over to the bedroom that has no children in it. I'm like, I'm so free.
Going to get mine. And the more that gets reinforced, the more you stay stuck, unable to learn the belonging and cooperation skills that are necessary to keep moving up the ladder. In other words, if you want people to develop to these higher stages, which we do, they have to learn the rules before they can break them. Like if you want to do bike tricks, you have to start with the basics. You want to be a jazz musician, start with hot cross buns. So again, this message, it's saying, why bother learning the rules before breaking them? And it's leaving a lot of people stuck. And then those stuck people will not be able to keep civilization functioning. We have known this for a long time. Back in the 12th century, some guy named Salahuddin Ayyubi, liberator of Jerusalem, that's probably debatable, but he sounds important. He said, if you want to destroy any nation without war, make adultery or nudity common in the young generation. Sound familiar? This is from a website called Muslim Skeptic, and they need your support. Apparently, relying on Allah is not working out. The Muslim world is very much concentrated at this level right now, the rules and roles level, the control of self and others through faith and discipline level, the fundamentalism level, and that's because they experienced their own collapse a few centuries ago. I just spoke to Rudyard Lynch of What If Alt Hist about this. Check out his channel. And he explained to me that history does not work like this. It's not, feminism was invented yesterday. And
I think this is like one of the fundamental differences between that right side and that left side too. And we brought it up before. Yeah, and that's why Jonathan, even on your guys' debate, said I'm Fowler's level of fate,
Yeah,
infinity +1 type thing. But my thing that I always say to the Exmormons that stuff is, because I know Anthony Miller loves the Fowler stages of fate stuff, is say it never shows the next stage of faith, which is total collapse, and then a new religion comes out of it, and it's where religion
Or that your
generally,
kids don't get to go through any of those stages.
yeah, for sure. And but just kind of one of the general ideas is like, I've brought up Spangler and Toynbee so many different times that they pointed to what this seems to be cyclical with civilizations just as much as it is with people. It's like a civilization gets old and overly philosophical about its religion, and it's almost always a sign that it's right about to just kill over and die. And some fiery, as Nietzsche would put it, some fiery young thing that really believes in itself but is stupid, but really believes in itself, comes and takes the place. Like he's saying here happened to Islam. What happened to, I think Toynbee points to like 135 different civilizations that it happened to. But yeah, the next stage in Fowler stages of faith is stuff collapses generally. So it's cyclical. And one of the large differences between left, I mean, I said last week, I even saw divas using the wrong side of history and the end of history stuff. And it's that Barack Obama thing that the arc of history curves upwards, and it's only upwards. It's only this direction. And the other side says, no, it's cyclical. It's cyclical. It's going to go stupid again. And you're going to have to start at the bottom again.
The pride cycle.
The pride cycle.
In the Book of Mormon is real.
Yeah. But actually, if you think it's real, that's a conservative trait. If you think it just arcs one direction up, even if you saw last week, because Brittany says so much of like critical race theory, and Brittany said in that whole show that Mormonism is even more sexist now than it used to be. And critical race theory is like, even though they say they've gotten better with all the race, they're actually just as racist as ever and figured out ways to hide it better. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not shocked people would say that.
But the arc of history still is going. It's gonna go this direction. It's gonna go. You can't stop it.
I have this mental file in my head that I put things in, and it's called things I learned from video games. And the arc of history constantly going up, that's something that I feel like I learned from video games. It wasn't really even from like morals. It was from technology. Because I remember like
most techno stuff is all up. Yeah.
Well, no, here's the thing though, is that like that's not always the case. I remember like
not that happens, just that a lot of like the techno theorists like think that's just, well, I guess some of them are
So what I'm talking about is like actual technology itself. I remember playing like an Assassin's Creed game, and you play as a Viking, and you're living in these dumb like Viking huts, and you go to this other land. You go to like what was Rome, and like your guy, as soon as he walks into the ruins of Rome, he's like, man, these Roman giants were really technologically advanced. And like, oh yeah, the Vikings happened after the fall of Rome. That's nuts. Yeah, you don't even think about that. Like technology doesn't even arc up all the time.
Yeah.
Of course,
when I was saying
morality
that it arcs
doesn't continually arc up.
When I was saying it arcs up, it's the transhumanist types, the people who just think like, well, this is only going one direction, and that's that direction,
And now everyone's going to be happy forever.
But I think that is one of the general things that you can draw a line between who's generally more conservative and who's that they think the arc of history is pointed one direction, and the conservatives think it's cyclical.
There are a lot of fluctuations between feminine and masculine control of society, and if you get too far in either direction, things get bad. And the Islamic world went too far in this direction and had an overcorrection, and now
is that background sound in his thing? It is, isn't it?
They are still hanging out up here. Some of this even happened recently. This was Iran in the 70s, and so was this. They look like they're from Wisconsin. That was before the Iranian Revolution. And let's not forget Afghanistan then and now. So this lie that the more...
Speaking of which, Israel just bombed Iran.
Yeah, joy.
Feminist things get, the happier everyone's going to be. It just is not real life. In reality, hyper-feminization causes its own problems, and the reaction might not be fun. What are these problems caused by glorious feminist freedom? Well, as women become liberated from men, which means getting materials that men produce without having to marry them, women experience a greater ability to choose, and they no longer have to settle for someone who is exactly on her level. Women become more free to pursue somebody who might have a full dance card and might not be interested in anything long term. This matches the results we get from dating apps. Women seem not to be very interested in most men, at least not until women get to know those men. This more equitable style of pairing off is what happens in tight-knit communities. But those tight-knit communities come from living at this level, where the mentality is to do what is right in order to get what is good in life. Nobody wants to do that anymore. They'd rather do what they want. People who live at this level look Amish to us now. We are therefore no.
Dan Ellsworth had an article today about the Pride Month going downward. In it, he pointed to something that I realized that there is something that really does kind of look like the Handmaid's Tale going on in the world. Did you see that?
What?
I didn't read it.
Oh, check. If I ever saw anything that really kind of goes, maybe there is some Handmaid's Tales going on out there, it's this picture right here.
Oh yeah.
Our maternity shoot. She's like even dressed in red.
Oh man.
She's hiding her face and all that sorts of stuff, and she's just a surrogate. She's just an incubator for that. Isn't that the Handmaid's Tale? If you've ever seen it.
Yep. Yep.
Huh.
No longer
That's
bound.
wild.
It's every man for himself. And when people do what they want, that's level 3 here, instead of doing what their community wants for them, doing what is right according to the rules and roles of your culture, people no longer form or remain in these stable and equitable relationships because there's no social or cultural pressure to do so. It takes a village. They just go, I'm not happy, because everyone's going to be not happy at some point in a relationship, and you need something to keep you together. Without that, people just...
Do you remember that there's I can't pull it up, but there's a Freedom's Tune cartoon where it says, it kind of goes Hollywood, every single show about the 50s in Hollywood, and it has this woman and it goes, boy, I'm sure happy. I'm just a happy housewife. And then it suddenly goes dark and she goes, but I'm secretly gay and I really want to have sex with all my neighbors and I'm so oppressed. And then it goes to the husband like, oh, I'm so happy in this relation. Leave it to Beaver. And then it goes dark. Oh, I'm secretly gay and I secretly have a crush on my neighbor and I want to have. And then it goes to the dog and the dog's like, every single one. And it's so true. Like if the 50s is shown at all in any sort of Hollywood thing, it's because they're all secretly wanting to get out there and smash.
Bail out into this mess where there's no social or cultural oversight. And when that happens, when nobody is keeping your relationship together, then everybody tries to just do the best that they can. And that gives very lopsided results, because men who are very high in demand will often sleep with women who are not very high in demand. And it just doesn't work the other way around. Like Taylor Swift is not out here picking up guys who work at McDonald's. So promiscuity is bad because it means do what I want. And doing what you want means that nobody has any say over whether or not you stay in your marriage but you. So as soon as it feels bad, you're going to leave and you're going to jump into this disaster where you're going to go look for the best you can get. And you're going to convince yourself that this guy almost married you, even though he would never be seen with you in public. And then you're going to get your heart broken so many times that you're just going to start hating men. And you're going to go, all men are the same, all men, even though you're only talking.
I love that ghost thing of like women, like the men below that range of, and I think that actually holds true, not just like judging on attractiveness. Like we generally pull out like all those women over on the RFM stream think when they talk about the men in the church who were patriarchal leaders pressuring down on them, they're almost all just thinking of like the bishop and the stake president and the general authorities and that sort of stuff. And the men who were not anywhere near that are just, they didn't exist. They were invisible. Every once in a while they'll give like a little thing of like, well, patriarchy hurts men too. But
ladies, I hate to tell you this, but the priesthood, in addition to not being real, it's like it wasn't that great to have. Like it didn't.
Most men in that ward are also not in leadership positions in any way, shape, or form, and aren't gonna be. The Cardin's never gonna be a leader in this ward.
Talking about these men, and these men down here are so completely detached from society and hopeless that they don't have any reason to contribute to society at all. And then everything falls apart because nobody is building. So in terms of development, these people, who are a small percentage of the population but tend to be very powerful because they're smarter and richer, they're saying we should be allowed to do what we want as long as we don't hurt anyone. And that message is heard by these people as we should be allowed to do what we want. and they don't hear the second part. And that leaves more and more people stuck down here, unable to ever learn how to not make everything about themselves. And that is a bad thing. So it's not controversial to say that promiscuity is increasing. What is controversial is how much and why it matters. But all the bad things you would expect to see are there. The birth rate is dismal. People are getting married later than ever. Rudyard told me that once that number reaches 28, it's bad news. So
there's always like this sense of I hate saying this in person, but I've kind of reconciled this stuff in myself, or I'm trying to as I go on more. But you know how like people with kids can always say, like, you just don't even understand what it is till you have a kid, that like your heart and everything you do goes to that, right?
Yeah.
And I think both of you would probably agree to that, right?
Yeah.
I think there's something like on the other side of that, once you get to a point where you're well past or don't think it's happening, where you don't realize like how much you're stuck in only being able to think about yourself and what you did today. Like, I dead seriously think that back pain can be worse for somebody who doesn't have kids because you're only thinking about your back pain.
Yeah, I would believe that.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
You know,
we might be stuck. The increase in single motherhood is not good for children. We've known that for a long time. And psychiatric medication rates are spiking amid ongoing uncertainty. Again, I'm pretty certain that it is the breakdown of society. When you switch from this to this, all of these guys and pretty much all women become less happy. And the only winners are just these guys up here who have all the options in the world, which is kind of funny because over here the whole feminism thing was like, men are winning, let's switch to this. Now it's just less men winning. So once again, in short, these people at this level, the sensitive individualist types, they wanted to move beyond the rules and live their best lives. And they were foolish enough to believe that everybody could do that, which is false. They can't. So instead of working within the rules, they just got rid of them. And when you do that, everything collapses. So what is the solution? Well, we have to get away from this model where people do what feels good in the moment and back to this model where people make decisions that are good for them and the long term and good for their communities. But how are we going to do that if everybody is still stuck down here? We don't have any structure anymore. All of the messaging coming from media and universities and culture, it's all saying you are a special, unique individual and nobody should be able to tell you what to do. And so nobody is learning the basics of how to be a part of something that works. It's me, me, me. That's what's killing us. Now, on the other hand, China has actually increased its marriage rate for the first time in 9 years. How did they manage that? Well, the government has been campaigning to promote marriage. What does that look like? Well, I'm not sure, but I know what it doesn't look like. I have referred to this phenomenon of women going after guys.
That's funny because like the Chinese side of that TikTok stuff is heavily censored from that sort of crap, and then they dump it into our society.
Who won't commit as being stuck on her highest setting. It's also called being an alpha widow. It's when she remembers one guy forever who no one else can ever measure up to, and she dreams of being with him even though he's not coming back. Cultivating that attitude is central to this collapse. So I'm going to finish my point with just a few examples of what this does to the minds of Western women. Yes, even grandma. These are all just TikToks that I collected over time. They were all very popular. This is what women are saying to each other. Here we go. Celebrity crush. She says, all that work and what did it get me? Because she pulled her celebrity crush and doesn't like regular people anymore. So she pulled her celebrity crush, but could not keep him because she's not at his level. And now that is her new highest setting. He's all she can think about, and normal guys don't do it anymore. For more information, watch Pull. Here's another. She's singing Gotta Whisper Cause I Can't Be Too Loud. She says this even though she posted it to the internet. She knows she's going to drunk call the guy she really wants at her bachelorette party. I made this video a while back about a guy who proposed to a girl twice, and she said no twice, but she still wanted to be with him. And he got frustrated and said, what is she waiting for? And the answer was probably another guy who she wanted to come back and replace this one, even though he was never going to do that. And she already knows this is her in 10 years at her bachelorette party. Here's a girl who has to say goodbye to her type because she wants to be treated like a princess. So in order to get out of this area and into this area, she knows she has to settle for less, even though this guy is not her type. Here's another marriage one. She's planning to leave a man at the altar if her old buddy comes back. This one's harsh. Something she's not ashamed of is she will always choose her ex-situationship over anyone that thinks they have me. That is brutal. She would drive 2 hours to see him and can't commit to a good guy because of him. You should be ashamed of that. Here's a girl skipping through the snow who's single but not really because she's loyal to the guy who won't text her back because he has better options. Same drawings over and over. Let's speed this up. On my way to engagement party thinking of my ex, running back to a man who hurt her before. Ha 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 ha. Wee! How could the known player have played me too? I'm so shocked. Forcing herself to go out with a good guy while waiting for the toxic one.
Almost all girls have that one guy that no matter what, if he were to text her at any point, she would be like, yes, let's be together. Like there's always that one guy. I don't know, it's either history or like he just is everything she wants and they're probably not together and they probably don't even chit chat. But the minute that he texts her, she's like, yeah, of course. I would leave anyone for him.
I was talking to my therapist about my man who's not my man but is my man. And she's like, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but can I see a picture of him? And she pauses and goes, okay, I get it. I see why we're in this situation. He starts like cracking up. And she's like, he's
Why would a therapist do that?
Oh my God. Why would anyone go to therapy? ever anymore. That's
Yeah,
so
it really is a joke of it.
that's such an evil thing to say.
The therapist is probably just sitting there being like a friend with her like all the time. It's just basically all they are nowadays. Like,
really hot. I'm like, I know. Score. We all have that one like situationship. It wasn't even someone we dated, but it's like a situationship that we now compare everyone else to. And I mean that in a sense of like you had a situationship with someone, like you bonded so well, you never actually dated, you guys never actually had a title or anything, but like they changed how you view romantic partners. And so now it's like you talk to someone new and it's like, yeah, but they're not blank. They're not them. They're not this. They're not that. And you don't even mean to do it, but it's just like,
what's that?
Man,
You look ridiculous. Also,
I'm so glad I'm not dating right now.
I know. I fucking hate
this
the
is
word
giving me
situationship.
anxiety.
Well, I mean, hopefully, because I mean, so many ex-Mormons who deconstruct.
Marty,
think
maybe you can illuminate me on this. Is there like somebody that told women that those massive extensions look good?
She has long hair. Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
sorry, the eyelash extensions.
Oh, I don't know.
Is there someone that told women that?
They got
I'll tell you what's weird though is when you know somebody that has them and then they stop getting them for a while. They look
I've seen
weird.
that. Yeah,
They probably
Like,
start to
they
look
need 'em
human
back.
again. Like no, they don't. God no. If she took those off right now, just wash your face off. You look ridiculous. Holy shit. I'm being picky here, but
I don't know. To me, it just looks super
You're-
girly. Like I wouldn't say that it
doesn't
looks
look
bad.
girly.
It just
It
looks
looks
super
terrible.
girly. It's like someone that gets their
Sexist.
nails done, and I don't know,
No, it doesn't look girly.
has
It
their
looks,
hair done.
it looks like dog shit.
I don't know. Let's do a poll. Do a poll in the chat.
One of you guys like
Eyelashes.
those eyelashes cost so much. Do you know how
Yeah.
much it costs?
Fake eyelashes, yay
like
or
hundreds
nay?
of
Does it
dollars.
does it improve
No.
attractiveness or
I've talked
take
to
away from
talked to
attractiveness?
dozens of men about this. I have never met a man ever who was like, "Yeah, they look great."
So are they just looking good for other women then? Like you're not going to
I
do
think-
that if you don't
No,
like
they're
the
looking-
way it looks.
Somebody
I
lied
think
to them and
women
told
notice
them they look
eyes more than guys do.
I
think
notice eyes when she looks like that, and they look terrible.
But I think they're drawing attention to it. But I've always had this like a general thing of like, especially like if you're around bodybuilding a whole lot, like guys walk around thinking that women look at their bodies the way we look at theirs. Like, look at those big boobs. So they think like, oh, look at my big bicep. You know what I mean? And women don't look at bodies like that. Like, well, those biceps are honking. Like, no, they see like the big thing. And I think women see eyes. Like, have you ever have women come across like your one friend and a bunch of them will stop and go, your eyelashes, and you're like, him? Like his eyelashes? His eyelashes? He has eyelashes? I didn't even know he had eyelashes.
No, that's
So
actually
you keep noticing it. And I
me.
think,
That's
do
me
you
and
notice your eyelashes?
group. Yeah, no, I actually have long eyelashes naturally.
So you noticed for it. So see,
that was like the one
hating
thing
on
I always got.
somebody in an area that you're gifted in.
It was the only thing I ever got. No, I'm not. She looks
Women
stupid.
like that. Women like the eyelash, and that's what I'm saying. Is I
Mine-
think because they
Yeah,
notice
I
it,
get
they
it. I
think
get
guys
what you're
notice
saying.
it.
I get what you're saying. But if my eyelashes look like that, I would trim them. That looks stupid, like embarrassingly stupid.
But they're just.
And she does it on
But
purpose.
it's like the guy who gets crazy big biceps and has no feet because he thinks women are looking at him like he looks at them.
Yeah, but at least he has big biceps now, and that's kind of cool.
It's not cool.
He's just got that
Well,
shit. on
women,
her
it's
face.
not cool. Like women really do kind of view the body more like holistically. Like they look and see if stuff blends well.
You know, I get it, but I'm just saying that from a utilitarian perspective, the biceps are.
Well, the guys will think it's cool, and just like the women think the eyelashes are
They
cool.
don't. I don't believe them. I think they're lying. I'm 100% sure they're lying if they say you should get like 4-inch long pieces of fucking hair sticking out of your eyelid. Like they're lying to her. They're trying to sabotage her so she looks whorish and ridiculous like this woman.
It's
You
the
know-
same thing like when you know somebody with like they always have their makeup done and you just kind of get used to it and then you like go to their house and drop something off and they weren't expecting company and they don't have any makeup on and you're like, whoa, who is that?
Whoa, you look like a person now.
Well, and you just don't recognize them because they always come out in public with their makeup and stuff.
There are some women I've seen who wear so much. 'Cause I've never been into the. I've always been into tomboys, right? Like everyone I've ever dated has been like, I like to ride horses or something like that. But So I've never had the girlfriend who like washes her makeup off and looks like a different person, but holy shit, have I seen them on the internet?
Yeah.
I've seen some statistics on this, and I'm being an Austin Fife now because I'm saying something about women based off of a survey and statistics, and that's just bad. That's just sexist to use that because that's all he did in that chapter that they criticized. But women supposedly look at the posterior or notice the posterior chain, which is kind of like the whole body, just kind of like from the back, like on down, more than they notice like some big old biceps walking around. So it's this general like area, the posterior chain, which is all holistic on like how the whole body looks.
It naturally, like you naturally just think like, damn, like no one can compare.
Right. No one who wants you can compare to men who don't want you. And in case you're hoping they grow out of it, just read that. And in case you're going to say not all women are like that and who don't want you. And in case you're hoping they grow out of it.
My grandmother's 85 and still talks about the guy she dated when she was 19.
It's the chick from Titanic.
That movie bothered me so bad for that. It bothered me the first day I saw it when I was
Hold on a sec. She had a fucking husband?
Yeah, she had a whole life and husband and kids and stuff, and she went back to him, and that actually caused a Mormon crisis for me because I knew a gal who had gotten married in the temple to some dude who died of like a brain issue 6 months later, and like they dated for 2 months. She knew that guy 8 months. She knew that guy 8 months, and like I you know, sad she's gonna have eternity with him, but she's probably gonna marry some other dude and have you know,
like
60 years and 8 kids with him, and all. She's 21 years old, you know, and but after this life, she's gonna Titanic right back to the first dude.
That's true. That is what Titanic is about. That's great.
It actually really did throw me through a thing that like I researched on my mission and had to ask my president about, and guess what answer I got?
They'll figure it out.
Well, why are you worried about this? Why are you thinking about this?
Just read that. And in case you're going to say not all women are like that, I love my guesses and feelings. May I refer you to the movie Titanic? Nothing on earth can come between them except for temperature. If you haven't seen Titanic, here's a timeline. It's about an old lady on her deathbed who had a long, full life with kids, grandkids, marriage, all the stuff. And all that she can talk about is the one time that a homeless guy f***ed her on a boat. Box office smash. You see this blue line? That's Titanic. It beat Avatar. It beat Jurassic World. I don't know why that's there. But you see how these lines kind of die out and this one keeps going? That's how much women love the guy who is never coming back. They prefer him to the guy who proposed twice. I have been the guy who's never coming back. There are girls I could have called whenever I wanted. I didn't want to.
Different.
And that is what
Jack died. I don't know why she didn't pull him up on the piece of wood. That was
a big fucking door.
Oh, that's funny.
They do not understand.
I think I clicked off of this before I saw it, so I didn't even know that Titanic thing was going. I thought I had the whole of it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Think we almost got married. No, you didn't. You were either forgettable or for now. That's where this diagram comes from. They all think that they almost got this guy, and that's why they don't want to settle for someone exactly like them. And that is what happens when you let people do what they want instead of making them do what is right. Prioritizing your selfish lower urges, what do I want, causes social decay. It's as simple as that. We might be.
I want to know who Hellmath is married to.
He's not married. He's pretty much incel level and proudly says it. But he says he doesn't think it's going to happen for him ever, and he can't make enough money to even like bring in a woman or something. Like he had a really kind of sad post a little while back of saying like throwing in the towel, kind of, you know, because he's 40, you know, and he's pretty angry about it. But anyway, that whole thing is kind of funny because I mean, right around when our fam was having that whole long discussion with the critical eye ladies, I know Jonathan sent that to him. He said there was kind of some positive comments to it, but I actually kind of wish that in just some of that critical eye stuff over with RFM, like Austin Fife's chapter was not great, you know, and then that response isn't great, and I feel that that's the whole Mormon discussion, you know, like here's Austin Fife making some claims that just stick with Mormonism because all this data says Mormonism is good for you, and
we asked a bunch of Mormons if Mormonism's good for you, and they all said yeah.
Yeah, and like, well, let's get the counterpoint. I hated my wife of caring for my family and kids and would have had more fun banging around. I think I'm going to get divorced now and it's going to go pretty okay for me. Maybe, maybe they're happy or whatever, but there's going to be pitfalls on stuff. And they said all that sort of deal, but it's not, you might not find like greener grass out there for sure. Or a situation or a situation that's not just kind of jacked up out there, because it is kind of jacked up out there. Is this your autistic of the week?
So this is my autistic.
Oh gosh, why did it go to the? Sorry, when I was rewinding it, it turned on the volume. What were you saying?
The reason, well, you play it, and I'll explain why he's the autistic hero.
Okay.
Angel Reese, part 39. Let's get it. They only lost by 19. Bang! Starting to feel bad. The other teams are starting to feel bad too. They're just gonna let her have it. Like, here you go. Like that Make-A-Wish kid scoring a touchdown in a wheelchair. Bang! Come here. Cut my arm. You're gonna say that I bleed Angel Reese transition threes? How about it? Bang! 23 of her 81 shots this year have been blocked. 28%. Ain't that crazy? Bang! Guess not if you can't jump over a blade of grass because your ass. Bang! Yeah, what do you want with your corn on the cob? You got butter? Butter? Did you say butter? Butter pecan! Y'all want to see a dunk in the WNBA? Me too. Crazier stat is that she averages more turnovers per game than field goals made. Bang! Got her double-double, am I right? Double-double. Give me that rebound. Bing, 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 bang. It's hot. She's dropping back. She's in the pocket. She's scanning the field. And she's picked off. Going the other way. She's at the 40, 30, 20, 10. End zone. Touchdown. Bang!
Okay, so I wanted to take note that was Angel Reese part 39.
Oh, nice. That's why it's. Oh,
this
another
one's pretty
one. He's
great.
going to keep doing it.
Rebounds! Wait, did you say rebounds? No, I said rebounds! Bang! Another one! Bang! Did the Lord's work. I went back and watched every single Angel Reese Meadbound this year. 6 games to start the season. She's already got 17! Low-key, she was got it right. I purchased WNBA League Pass just to watch the Meadbound merchant go to work! It was only $35 for the entire year. Free plug, WNBA, you're welcome. You gotta give credit where credit is due. Nobody, and I mean nobody, rebounds their own misses better than Angel Reese. How about it? Bang! He's wide open. Bang! Did you know she leads the WNBA in getting her shot blocked? 18 times in 6 games. My math says that's 3 times per game. Bang! Did you say 3? You know what else is 3 words? Butter pecan! Bang! She's only got 2 blocks on defense. So every time she blocks a shot, she's getting her shot blocked in return 9 times. Run the numbers real quick. Not great, Bob. Lisa Leslie was helping her with her layups. Guess not. Bang! Are we watching professional basketball, or are we watching little Timmy trying to score on his big brother? Bang! That commercial? Nothing but net. Nothing but bang! How about anything but net? Literally, the net never moves. That smelly thing out of here. Send it back! She's made more shots from the free throw line than she has on the floor. What? Bang! Angel!
Anyway, that's my autistic hero of the week, and the reason is because that first one I showed you was Angel Reese part 39.
Oh my gosh.
That means this dude, in order to make these, imagine watching that much Angel Reese, that much WNBA.
He probably watches her more than anybody else.
He's probably her biggest fan.
I can't find the thing, but I saw some meme today about she's going to get arrested in LA for throwing bricks and stuff like that.
Oh no.
The Angel Reese be arrested for throwing bricks yeah. The Angel Reese bricks funded by Soros. The Angel Reese brick show.
So is this just that she has a lot of bad shots? I mean, she's in professional basketball. I'm assuming she can make the basket.
She got pretty bad
She's
stats.
pretty bad. Yeah.
Her best
She's
stat.
nowhere
Why does
near
she
as
have
good
the
as
ball
Tatum
so much?
Clark.
Why do they play her so much?
Well,
She's
so
only in her first or second year, and they thought she was a high recruit. And then,
she's got her highest stat is her rebounds, and everybody started noticing that most of her rebounds are off of her own shots, and so they call them me-bounds. It's just fucking great. And I don't think people would be so mean to her if she wasn't such a fucking dick. She's such
I've never heard of
whiny-
her before.
She's a whiny.
well, she's the one who's been really fighting with Caitlin Clark about it's only racism that they like Caitlin Clark. Only Caitlin Clark's a way better player.
People is watching it. People is watching this spout.
It's like, no, she can make the basket.
People is
keep
watching
giving
this
people
spout because of me too.
All right, Jared, here's one for you. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
For LA.
So sorry, I cannot sleep, I cannot dream tonight. I need somebody and always. The six strange stories comes creeping on, so hunting every time. Así que empecé a contar.
That's for the LA Riots for you. Have you heard the Simpsons replacement voices for the black characters?
Yeah, I have. I don't like them.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're bad.
Wait, because it was a white person doing
Yeah,
black
and
voice?
they had to force it. Here, I got a clip of it if you want to
Yeah, there's
see.
Dr. Hibbert and Lou.
The recent replacements for the voice actors haven't quite been right for me. It sounds like your mate trying to do a Dr. Hibbert.
Homer, the results of your physical are very concerning.
Or it sounds like your mate trying to do a Carl.
You totally pwned him.
It doesn't sound like Carl. I found the...
Did they go back and change them? Are they going to do that?
Oh, I doubt it. But like,
They wouldn't go that far back.
yeah. Well, they're doing it with King of the Hill as well. I think King of the Hill is going to be good, but Wang isn't played by the same guy because he's not Asian.
I'm watching King of the Hill. Like I'm checking through them, and man, oh man, did they do a lot? Like I was just watching the one where Bill started dressing like his ex-wife because, and like man, there was some subjects going on back here in the '90s. Yeah, Simone Biles criticized.
I'm like, I remember I checked into Simpsons like a couple months ago. I was like, I'm gonna check out the season 30 fucking whatever they're on, just to see how bad it is. And I think it was Lou, and also Carl, and I heard Dr. Hibbert too. And I was like, dude, there's no way you couldn't find a black dude anywhere that could do a pretty spot on impression of Dr. Hibbert, right? Like this is the closest you could get.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I have a lot of different. There's still a lot of different stuff. That fencing.
Are they gonna find a boy to do Bart?
Oh,
yeah, I know. Yeah, you gotta do that now.
That guy who was fencing in college is back, taking spots away. And,
Oh, what? Are you telling me that men is better at fencing than women is?
It's so goofy, man.
That's as ridiculous as a squirrel riding a rocket-powered skateboard. I love your tenacity, Sparky, but I don't think it's gonna work.
So here's the big meme that was going around about the Mexico flag. Make America Mexico again. Viva Mexico. Okay, buddy.
Comes at a cost. The voices.
Okay, buddy, back to Mexico. Oh my God, no, this is unfair. Don't send me to Mexico. Oh my God, no, my life is ruined. I don't know. We're about hitting that 3 hours. Did you guys have any other stuff you wanted to share or see or talk about?
We gotta go 5 tonight.
5 hours?
At least.
What's the next subject?
Just
kidding. I've got another subject. No, I'm just kidding. I do not. I think we're about spent.
Yeah, well, once Natasha Helfer releases her next review of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
You're waiting for that? Here's the picture.
So Rothenberger carried his team to the Minnesota Girls State Championship in girls softball today, beating Bloomington Jefferson 6-0. Particularly egregious about this whole thing is that Marissa Rothenberg pitched 5 straight games. So he's pitched 35 innings consecutively, allowing 2 runs across 5 games and shut out 4 of the 5 opposing girls teams. This points to another reality about allowing boys and girls sports. Never underestimate the desire of competitive coaches who are always looking for an advantage. And a male pitcher is a ringer, and he is just exactly that kind of advantage. So many girls were displaced by one male player. We'll never know who the real champion is. And girls were denied a fair chance to test their skills in a fair environment, not just against the other team, but on his team. Because when you only allow 3 hits like today, your defense doesn't have to do much. And you don't even need a relief pitcher so another pitcher doesn't get to pitch. You just have your boy pitch and dominate 35 consecutive inning.
It's like one guy can take over for literally like 50 different girls who
Oh,
might
yeah.
have played in that. Yeah.
I do believe I saw a clip of this, and they showed the picture of the team. I think it was on like it was on one of those. It was a YouTube clip. Anyway, I found it funny because they couldn't tell which one it was, though. They couldn't tell which one was the boy. They're like, "Is it the one on the left?" No, I think it's in the middle. And so they basically
They couldn't tell.
told all
looking at-
those girls they look like boys.
Oh, I was thinking the reverse. I thought they were making fools of themselves, showing it. Like, look, you can't
No,
even
they
tell.
just
He's
couldn't tell which
passing.
one
He's
it was.
passing.
Yeah, that
Oy
was
vey.
kind of funny.
Here's Seth. Rooftop Koreans after 33 years waiting for the LA rioters to loot their liquor stores again.
Did you see that rooftop Korean responded to the guy?
No, what'd he say?
I think I sent it in the group.
Which one? Quaker?
Oh, I'm checking. Sorry, it's probably the Quaku one.
Hello there. On Iraq to Iran. The war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be continuous. George Orwell. Nope. Don't say. It looks like Quaku went on Cara Burrell again to expose the Nazis. He was talking about the Nazis.
Oh no,
on radio.
It was on the
You
one
guys.
with Jonathan. It's one of the most recent pictures in there.
Wait, are you guys Nazis, or would he still talk to you?
Quaku?
If
Yeah, I don't think he'd call us Nazis. No. He does get some pretty out there Desnatty dudes on the Twitter that he's talking about, but
He's also fucking ridiculous on Twitter.
yeah, he's ridiculous on one, and he was trying to like argue to Quaku, like, what's worse, us lefty progs or some guy who says this stuff? Well, I mean, those guys on Twitter, calling Christ Odin or something like that. I don't think that's like a major thing going on in the church, but yeah, that guy's a goofball. This dude?
Yeah, go back one picture. Well, there's this one, but this one's great. Somewhere in LA, there is a 68-year-old Korean grocery store owner wiping the dust.
Oh,
off
and
his
that's him?
Yeah, he's never dusty, my friend. Always oiled and ready.
Oh, that is awesome.
And then, yeah, if you look at the next picture, it shows his bio.
I didn't even realize what that was.
Yeah.
This one? That's him?
Well, that's just a different, but that's his profile. He's like a big he's like apparently a big Second Amendment advocate. 2021 anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, that one didn't dawn on me.
He's so fucking based.
That's cool. Well, I think that's it. I ain't got nothing else. So
sounds good.
We done did it.
Oh, Flip!
Oh shoot! Wait,
you got a
there's
booze
one
corner?
more thing I need to do before you.
Oh yeah, we need Flip to do a booze corner.
No, well, close. I'll be right back.
Are you gonna hold on? Let me put up the booze corner picture. Oh, Marty looked up the Dick of Damocles and she found something on Twitter that explained, that said this isn't good. That's not good to talk about the Dick of Damocles.
That could be offensive.
It made me wonder if the thing's able to like think in an AI way to denounce that that's offensive, or if somebody else somewhere has already said something about the Dick of Damocles.
Oh god.
Marty, you hadn't heard of the Sword of Damocles before?
I'm back. No, I hadn't.
Oh, you got Bucket.
Ah, the kitty.
That's a new one.
Now tell us about some booze. What booze would you
We
drink?
tried Kona Big Wave. It's pretty good.
What is that? I really am dumb.
How is it distilled, Marty? Come on.
It's in a blue
Where?
can. It's really pretty.
Hey, but that doesn't even look like Bucket. What was it? What flavor was it? Was it? Ruby says she's in Flip's house. Even. What
Sorry.
was the flavor of it? What was it?
It kind of tasted like beer.
Oh.
I'm starting to think you're not Flip, because when I say Flip, what's the alcohol? Oh, I got nothing. Boom! I got a whole Wikipedia page of information on the.
Yeah, it tastes similar to Coors Light.
What is this? I don't even know what it is. I really am this dumb about booze. What's it called?
The commercials make you feel like you're in Hawaii.
Oh, well. This is Normie Booze Corner. What is the booze? I'm also a booze normie. What is it called again?
Kona Big Wave.
Oh man, this is gonna be sacrilegious to Flip. Oh, there's no way he's gonna like that one. There's no way. What? Kona is just a beer?
Yeah. It's just.
Well, all right.
Yeah, those are all right, I think.
It's a cute blue can.
Hey, as long as it's not an IPA.
I do have one other clip for Marty for this. Was she just got normied out, and this is why Flip's gonna be mad that she fell for this. Oh, where'd it go?
Say hi. He's a
Kitty,
kitten.
kitty?
He's not full grown.
What's his name?
This is Jax.
Jax.
Did you name him after Sons of Anarchy, Jax?
No. I've not heard of that.
The Sons of Anarchy is about a motorcycle
random.
gang, and my cousin unironically named his kid after Jax.
Here, this is what I think happened.
Healthy, and to prove it, I'm gonna. What sin do you? You could rebrand anything to make it sound healthy, and to prove it, I'm gonna rebrand Pepsi to sound healthy. I'm just gonna rebrand regular Pepsi for this one, and I'm gonna use the skinny can because I like the aesthetic of it a little bit more. Changing up the colors a little bit, I'm gonna start with a solid black can. I'll put the Pepsi logo front and center because you have to. I gotta find a unique angle to make this one sound healthy, so I'm gonna go the hydration route because the main ingredient in Pepsi is carbonated water. So I'm gonna call this Pepsi Hydrate Plus. The plus having no meaning at all, it just makes it sound better. I guess it could be like plus flavor, I guess. Pepsi does use natural flavors, so I'll add naturally flavored on there. And then I'm also gonna add 100% plant-based because that's true too. Since the main ingredient is water, I'm gonna emphasize that on the bottom, saying main ingredient always water. And instead of just being soda, I'm gonna call this premium sparkling cola. At the top, I'll add smooth taste and clean energy. And then below that, a few more call outs. We'll go with fat-free, gluten-free, and low sodium. And the plain black can is cool, but we need to do a little bit more. I'm gonna add some blue elements to this to really accentuate the water. And I will put the Pepsi logo in a water drop. And just like that, telling no lies at all, we've got healthy, hydrating Pepsi.
Kona! The gal I'm dating told me today that she found something that said that Diet Coke is fridge cigarettes. And I was like, yeah, pretty much is.
I actually heard that today too.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
This is going around. I'm guess I'm going to hear for a long time in my life now.
Yeah,
I'm addicted to fridge cigarettes.
Well, there's one of my friends. He's like, "Is your wife addicted to Diet Coke?" I'm like, "Nah, she doesn't really care for it." He's like, "Oh, my wife is," and I told her I found a thing today telling her it's fridge cigarettes.
Yeah,
like, fuck
it's
you.
gonna go around.
Is.
It's true. It's true. It's a fridge cigarette. I remember there was an old Onion back when it was funny that said, "Man, worried about whatever he's dying from all the Diet Coke he drinks." It's true, but whatever. All right, exactly over the 3 hours. We done did it. Thanks for bringing on Jax to say hi and for giving us a booze corner and for filling out the night. We didn't know you were popping on. You popped in to do the whole set with us. That was very nice.
I should have left when I started yawning, but
I didn't notice.
Made it to the end.
I didn't notice that.
You should have left when we said a sexism.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. We probably did it like 2 minutes in.
Yeah, can't make it that far without having to suffer through a sexism. So we appreciate your long suffering. All righty. Have a lovely night, everybody. Thanks for chatting, everybody. All right.